Welcome back to most of you, and welcome to CDF for those who've come here today for the first time. And today's session is very exciting for me personally, and it is an extension of all the efforts that we've been doing towards building a community of practice. So, this is something that many of you would have heard from me repeatedly over the last few years. The reason why we set up something called the Capacity Development Forum is that we develop a platform for people who are involved in any intervention that involves building any stakeholder's capacity at any level, beyond sectoral boundaries, beyond coming from certain disciplinary training and vocabulary that you use within these sectors, and come together and share learnings and also experiences largely, because whenever we come together and speak about our experiences, we just find that we have very similar, if not the same kind of um, feedback, reactions, feelings to some extent. It could be frustration, it could be delight, it could be anything across the range of emotions. It could be very satisfying as well. And to create this platform, to say that yes, we are speaking beyond sectoral boundaries doesn't mean that we will step away from these sectors. We also need to look at whether there are lessons that we could learn from each other. And there are hardly those platforms set up where you say, okay, there are some of these behavioral insights that everybody needs to work with. These insights could be like cultural norms, certain things that we could take for granted, and we think this is how things are done and this is how things do happen. That need not be, and maybe should not be as well. There are things like motivation to be able to do something which people know is right or good for the larger society or themselves or the sector or anything at all. So all of yesterday we had conversations about how policies are made, having citizen centricity. We know that citizens have certain problems and they need to be solved, and policies, programs, and other things are being designed for addressing these issues. And there's also this thing that came up yesterday, that people don't always behave rationally and do what's best for them. So the insights could also be, like I said, motivation, inspiration. It could be very different kind of barriers that you imagine that your work is something. Your scope of work does not include addressing something in particular as well. So now, if there are these behavioral barriers, behavioral levers that need to be included in program design, policy design, scheme design, just training design as well, just in a classroom. When we go into a classroom saying, okay, this is the objective, based on expected behaviors or whatever is seen, we keep making changes to how we address those issues as well. So these behavioral insights could be across scales. We would also see what kind of interventions are being made across these scales, across sectors, and also how and what kind of barriers can be easily come over. Because yesterday, again, another key point that stood out to me was that small interventions or small nudges could also create bigger kind of impact, which probably nudges people to do bigger things by themselves without external push. So we would also see if there are some examples like that. And going back to this idea of community of practice, if we have to learn from other sectors, if we have to learn from what people have actually done on ground, this is one setup that we have. You know that this is a fairly short session for everyone to be able to express everything that they have, experience-wise, case-wise. But the session per se ends at 12:30, but it's open for all of you to reach out to them, also share your experiences with the larger group, keep in touch. over the next year, we are still going to be looking at how to deal with behavioral insights with a capacity development focus, of course. So I welcome you all to this session and discussions beyond this session as well. I'll briefly introduce the structure of this session. So first, we'll have all of these invited experts present the case that they want to highlight in this session, focusing on behavioral insights. What kind of barriers did they have? How did they design their interventions? How did they work? What doesn't work? After that round is over, we'll have a discussion focusing on capacity building aspects. I'll come to those questions later. And after that, it'll be open for the panelists as well as the audience to basically share their experiences, ask questions. It doesn't have to be pointed to one panelist or something. It could just be a group discussion as well, right? If that works. Also, just excuse me, I'm not doing a very detailed bio of all the speakers. I hope that's okay. All right. I request the speakers to please give a background of yourselves when you start off. Now, yesterday, when we started off CDF 2024, our director, Aromar Ravi, said this whole idea of behavior change started off from public health. So I would also want Dr. Usha Manjunath, who is Director of Institute of Health Management Research here in Bangalore, to start off with her experiences. I mean, there was a lot of work done around COVID and beyond. So I'd like you to start, ma'am. Yes.
So I will stand and do it.
Up to you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's a clicker.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. And we are very happy, Institute of Health Management Research and my team, to be here and, given a chance to really share our experiences on the work that we did as a part of COVID appropriate behaviors. And so just a very quick background. I come from allied health background of, speech and hearing. I did my BSc and MSc in speech and hearing from All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysore. I worked in the field for quite a while. I was also in the US, got my Cs in speech pathology. But when I returned to BITS Pilani, so, the town of Pilani particularly. So I happened to live in Rajasthan, Pilani for the longest, about 19 to 20 years. So when I joined BITS, they wanted me to do higher education. And that's when the only thing that I could relate to a technology and science institution was the program that they had on hospital and health systems management. And I was very passionate about healthcare. So then I did that. I was in the management department, did my PhD there. And then in 2010, I relocated and came back to Bangalore. Since then, I'm at Institute of Health Management Research. So as I will just use one slide about us. So we are an institute, an independent, autonomous one. We are a part of Indian Institute of Health Management Research Society, Jaipur. And so we are an institution dedicated to improvement in standards of health through better management of healthcare and related programs. And it seeks to accomplish this through management research, training, consultation, and institutional networking at national and international level. In terms of what we do, we have an academic vertical where we have a full-time program of PGDM, Hospital and Health Management. It's approved by AACTE. Similarly, we are launching this time AI and DS, the Artificial Intelligence and Data Science in Healthcare program, and then fellow program in management we started last year. We have a couple of executive program, hospital management and digital health for hospital and so on. And research and publications, I'm sure many of you as institutions and as individuals continue to work on. We work also in the healthcare, primarily impact assessment, implementation, large-scale surveys. Currently, our team is doing an FHS 6 in the state of Tripura. Focus area of evaluation, all the health projects, RMNCH, Life Course, NCD, Health Communication, and in the last 3 years, 4 years, we have also entered into digital health. Training, we have short-term programs and certificate programs and so on. We are a consultant organization for NABH consultancy accreditation. And then we have individual consultancy that some of our expert faculty take up based on their expertise. We have just about 2 years back launched a center for advancing digital health called Admire. And so we kind of working on digital health skilling, research. We have published a lot of papers in that. Digital health data and AI lab is established. So we are working towards developing various products or analytical part and an incubation cell. Moving ahead to what we are going to talk about, I've just listed, I'm not going to read out all of them, but we have been working in the field of research as well as training and others, using a lot of communication, IEC to SBCC and so on. And so the one, we work with various ones, so I've mapped it there. We've also floated a social behavior change communication along with the training that we had and the workshops and support that we get from UNICEF and University of Hyderabad. We are running as an elective to our own students, and we plan to really move ahead to have that as a special course for people who want to really work on SBCC. So one such project, which I'm going to talk about, is where we worked with as a technical partner support to accelerate promotion of COVID-appropriate behaviors and vaccination in the state of Karnataka, with funded and supported by UNICEF. So this we worked almost in the field in all 31 districts of Karnataka for 15 months. And our strategies were SBCC. It was from the Department of C4D from UNICEF. And so we kind of really started off initially like, what am I going to do it in 31 districts of Karnataka? How am I going to manage all this? What strategies to really settling down in the first couple of months to really move ahead. So very briefly about the project. We started in August 21. And the project was extended up to December 22 and 31 districts of Karnataka. And then we had, various people working in that. So we worked with line departments, 5 line departments at the district level and at the state level too. Panchayat Raj, Health and Family Welfare, Women and Child Development, ICDS programs and ICPS, Social Welfare, and so on. So I will just talk about a little bit of the strategies. So the way we worked was we worked very closely with UNICEF and the departments, and capacity building was one part of it, system strengthening through SBCC, and then targeted SBCC campaign and general evidence and knowledge management and building, social capital. So these are the departments I've already mentioned that we worked with. We also worked with NGOs, CBOs, and FBOs. This was the time when the first wave was over, and we were into the field after the ending of the second wave, and so there was a lot of work that we were trying to really do. And what were some of the result areas that we were looking at? Promotion of CAB itself, increased capacities of government functionaries of key land departments through risk communication, then strengthening and collaboration between government and local NGOs, enhanced SBCC support on the ground through coordination and collaboration, COVID-safe Anganwadis to be opened, because at that time the Anganwadis were closed, and building capacity of frontline workers for reopening of the Anganwadis, strengthen monitoring systems through supportive supervision of COVID-sensitive and specific responses. The behaviors that we primarily focused were, of course, it's all the whole range. I think I don't need to really say on the COVID-appropriate behaviors. By the time we went into the field, we were also focusing a lot on the safe behaviors, but plus vaccination was the focus after we were in the field. After the, lot of things were opening up, where immunization, nutrition, and wash programs were also affected of various departments. So we moved into that. Then all our programs were in collaboration and line departments and local NGOs and PhD level heat maps and so on. Um, so, you know, in terms of really looking at, we defined our program itself as a 360-degree one. So we looked at individual groups and community groups and what SBCC and the media that we would like to use. And as we went along, we really expanded a whole lot of things. We were in the field for more than about 12 months. And so therefore, we had to really look at a whole range of things. Advocacy was another thing that we really looked at. So some of the things that was very, very interesting for us also to work with the community radio, channel, TV channel, television. So we would go and have special programs at various levels and, work with the community radio people, align with the, department and, have people come and, participate in those and so on. The model, I'm sure, is nothing very new to any of you sitting here, is in terms of the socio-ecological model for change. So from self to interpersonal to the next layer of community and enabling environment. So we obviously were looking at self, individuals, even though our program was looking at huge population. We were also looking at where there was some very specific barriers to look at counseling, interpersonal communication, and IEC, and so on. Then outreach and social support and peer education was the very important next step that we had. Community mobilization and dialogue and community media was a very, very important part. We also had mass media, advocacy, public events, and other influential sources, convergence meetings, information dissemination, and so on as we went ahead for the environment level. Just to kind of highlight, I will, in this 10 minutes, maybe I will not, but we did have various challenges as we went ahead. We had 25 field level social behavior change communication coordinators. They were attached to either one district PR department, RDPR, CEO, they were reporting to CEO, and we had a state level coordinator, Dr. Deepa is with me here today, and we were able to kind of coordinate from here. We used a lot of online, for monitoring, training, and so on. And we had certain training for the SBCC coordinators, at least 2 which were in person, one in the beginning where we had, along with UNICEF, we kind of trained them very strongly for 5 days, and then we had a refresher training again later. And these people were supporting various level, making the communication plans, and all of that was monitored from the institute by the state level team. So at the nomad community, obviously education is less, the languages was a problem. So what we really, and they're moving population. So we had street plays, songs were written, and children were encouraged to participate. One of the things was the trust building, which was the most difficult one. And so I still remember a little this one when we were writing case studies on these stories, was that the social behavior change communication coordinator, SBCC coordinator, when he went and met them, they said, will you come and live with us? So he had to spend some time with them. And that kind of, they said, okay. So he was able to eat with them and spend some time. Within those short periods, we were able to impact, and they said, okay. I mean, because they feel we are different, we don't get really included in the main this one. And so it was like sometimes, these kinds of things, very, heart-touching kinds of things also we experience. Migrant community, mostly construction workers, and contacted. So we used, if there were construction workers, we worked with the building owners or the construction contractors, convert them as influencers. So we kind of went through them. scheduled activity, and because they're busy during the day, we had to schedule activities during the evenings. So this, I'm sure any of us in the field would know that. Among the tribal community, again, trust issues continues, and influencers and healthcare professionals were taken from their own tribe. So we worked with their own ashas, their own anganwadis, and that was much helpful to really influence. We used a lot of data to kind of plan our target. So this was a heat map. So we worked with the departments. Health department was also this one, but our primary this one was RDPR. As we were getting data every regularly, what we did was we created heat maps. We wanted to know where we can really impact much better. So we were focusing a lot more. So as long as it was below the average, then we would score it as something and then go ahead. The other one, this was for the second dose. As you can see, there was, so at every level we were able to really impact, but then we used data for planning, implementation, and monitoring. So when we worked with the departments, and I think that was the greatest buy-in for the departments who were working with us, because they understood that we mean business, we have data, the data was coming from them, but they were ready to share. We were able to really use the data to plan our communication strategies approach. Maybe the other one that will tell you, we were able to go at the granular level of even PHCs. So this was the first dose, and second dose, we would really plan that all the red ones are the ones where there is not enough, so we could target that much better. So these were some of the strategies. One is really understanding what works with a particular community. The other one is, working with the departments, very smart people, whether it is health department and various others, they are good in what they do. So, but then once they saw these, they found that this was all very useful strategy to plan and implement. Moving ahead, I'll just show. So we kind of would plan way ahead. Second dose was a little slow to pick up. So we said, okay, second dose, the vaccination of children was another challenge as it came by. And then we also were at the stage where pregnant women were accepting, they were also allowed to take this. And so we had to really re-strategize quite a bit. How do we really go? And that's when, say with pregnant women, we said, let's take doctors to really talk to them, OBGYN to talk to them, because it's a very sensitive period, a vulnerable period of pregnant women taking this and acceptance, and you can't force, you can't really do any of those. So we were really trying to do what works best with whom and at different stages of it. So we would really chalk out our this way, and so like, what are the measures that we really looked at? So I kind of have put it together as input level, what we did, and at the process level, what changes we were able to, do, and at the outcome level, what we were able to do. So the population reach, so we kind of really were counting. A lot of those campaigns were whole villages themselves if you are doing a tom-tom. So we were able to kind of take those data from various this one and see how we can really do. And we had a very good system from the district level. So the SBCC coordinators would be feeding the data at the end of the day, whatever they did, and that was all through the Excel sheets and this one, and then converted into a dashboard finally. So we were doing continuous monitoring of the data, what we really provided, because this was very important as a project outcome. Yeah. So impact, in communication, we were able to do at the microsites. Education, we were able to do. Then there was convergence, which was very successful at different departments, and dissemination that we were able to really take up at a regular basis. Moving ahead, the outcome measures, we were able to develop the protocols for opening of the safe Anganwadis, increased awareness about CAB, achievement of 100% vaccination during Har Ghar Dastak, absorption of health, observation of health days as menstrual hygiene day, global hand wash day. So we were going and doing with the department programs. This is the dissemination initiatives. We could leave you with our link for the dashboard, and we were also publishing. So we had 12 monthly newsletters we disseminated with all the departments, and continuously worked with that. So putting it all together, really looking at, if I'm looking at behavior, I have to probably justify, and I know Aishwarya started off saying, the behavior is this win. Yes, from my understanding of psychology or social psychology, I always say human behavior is the most unpredictable one. So whether we are rational, not rational, I think it's comparable only to weather prediction, maybe. So we kind of looked at justification, the behavioral intention, but then what really does that? Individual related, there are psychosocial factors, system related factors, and regulations, or how these, but is it a mandated one? Are there options for us to really behave? And then once this internal, my own internal and external part is kind of this, I will probably look at, yes, I'm competent, I can really do it, and then maybe it becomes a habit. So this is kind of looking at, way the change one. These are our, team compositions and our acknowledgements that, we were able to really work well with the departments over a period of time, and we highly acknowledge all the departments, all the, community, the SWIN, and my own SBCC coordinators in the project, and, we've been able to really impact that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. I think one big takeaway for me was also this part about building trust. It was also brought up yesterday, where there was this reference to building trust amongst the champions themselves. That was possible only by making them see the value proposition, see the change, see the value that the whole program brings. But in something like this, it might be difficult. In this sector, it might be difficult for them to see the value proposition there, getting vaccines done. So maybe just being part of the community for a while has also worked out. All right. Making a shift in sector altogether. Health sector was very active during the COVID period, but you were working on a lot of programs at a massive scale, which were not directly dealing with the community, but a lot of institutional stakeholders. You started a lot of programs around that time, which people were ready for or not ready for. So I request Ms. Ashwati Dilip, who is the managing director at ITDP India, to throw some light on the mobility initiatives that were taken up in large scale across the country. And please focus on the behavior part of it.
So as the presentation comes up, hello everybody. Firstly, thank you to Aishwarya and the team at IHS for inviting ITDP for this discussion. I'm Ashwati Dilip, I'm an architect, urban designer, and I lead ITDP India. What we do is that we work with cities, states, and the national government towards promoting and encouraging sustainable mobility. So let's dive into the presentation and yeah. So today here I'm planning to just share a little bit on the power of national campaigns that we had executed during the COVID time, as Aishwarya mentioned. Now, we're an organization, an international organization that's working with cities, states, and national governments across the world, but in India, we've been working for the last 2 decades. Now, just to give you a bit of a sense of the kind of work that we do is that when we talk about sustainable mobility, which is things like promoting walking, cycling, the use of public transportation, helping cities with travel demand measures such as parking management, low emission zones, congestion pricing, as well as helping cities build compact cities through transit-oriented developments. What we've been doing is that we've been working in a deep dive manner in a few cities whom we call the deep dive engagement cities, to see tangible action. What are the levers that help those cities take that action? And then look at how these levers, whether they are policies, plans, or programs, how can they be scaled up at the national or the state level? And so that was the question that we were sort of thinking about during the time of COVID. Now, some of the challenges that we faced, especially when it comes to scaling up these initiatives. So if you look at most of our cities, when it comes to whether it is walking or the use of public transport, a large part of our citizens, most amount of trips do tend to happen by walk and by the use of buses. Yet the amount of budgets that get allocated for the building of safe infrastructure for these interventions to happen or for these actions to happen safely is very small. So when we were beginning to work, especially with newer cities, the challenges that we sort of were working with was that there was a lack of consensus on what is progressive sustainable transportation. There was a lot of interest towards building flyovers, while research showed that every increase in road space would increase congestion as well. Yet, so there was that lack of consensus. So there was a need for strong advocacy. Secondly, there was no urgency for the cities to take this action. So if it was about building streets, we all know that there's continuously people, especially pedestrians, who are dying on our streets. Yet creating safe infrastructure like just footpaths in every road that is created in our city, there was no urgency to take that action. Third, there are national policies and standards. For example, the Indian Roads Congress is a national guideline that tells you how you should be building your footpaths. Yet it did not result in implementation. Then, to implement itself, the lack of understanding of senior decision makers or even the lack of capacity of engineers was something that we were facing. And finally, there were some cities like Bangalore, Pune, where the citizen participation is great. We have amazing citizens who are really engaging or, trying to have that sort of a dialogue with the government, but that's not something that you see, for example, in an Ujjain or in a Roorkela. So that was also a challenge that we were facing. This is where we had the opportunity of working with the national government on 3 campaigns for promoting walking, cycling, and public transport. So to just set the context of when this was happening, this was happening during the COVID time. Now, collectively across the world, there was the hashtag of building back better. So there was that, like Aishwarya says about what is the catalyst? What is that push that you can maybe leverage? What is that unfair advantage that you have at this point of time that you can use for your own campaign? So what we were building on was this Building Back Better, which was which is an international campaign that was going on. And what also we had was that because the world was closed and because there were not many projects, all the government officials had opened up to this whole concept of online webinars. So that was something that we also leveraged. And so we had this Urban Log, which was an international sort of webinar series that acted as a catalyst. And here, one of the things that during the webinars that came up was that New Zealand was launching a national program on promoting walking and cycling. And we had our own joint secretary who was a part of this dialogue. He himself was also a champion. Mr. Kunal Kumar was the commissioner of Pune and had done a lot of walking and cycling. So I'm just trying to break it down so that it's not just having any champion. It was a converted champion who was already invested in the cause, who was in this particular dialogue. And when he heard that there was another country that had done something like that, he was inspired to say, okay, can we then look at scaling this up in India? So this gave us the opportunity to create 3 national programs called the India Cycles for Change, Streets for People, and Transport for All. I'm not going to go into deeply about each of these campaigns, keeping in mind the time that we have. So one thing that we realized is that this campaign was open to, for example, more than 100 cities. So you would have cities with higher capacity like Bangalore, as well as cities with lower capacity like Jhansi, who are all in this particular program. So how do we make sure that decision makers in each of these cities are feeling empowered to take action was a question that we had. So here we said that let's make sure the intervention is as simple for them to take. So our approach was to help them test the intervention at a scale that is comfortable for them. Secondly, help them learn from this test with the citizens and then encourage them to scale it up at a larger scale across the city as well. For all of these cities, sometimes the most important or the gap is that what is it that you're asking us to do clearly, or what is it that we should do clearly? So we had very clear, the framework of the challenge was made such that there were clear actions that the cities had to take. One was in terms of physical interventions. So it was not just coming and speaking about what your intent is, but show your intent through actions, through pilots, and then converting them into permanent infrastructure. So there was a pillar on actual intervention that the cities would take. Secondly was foundational elements. So sometimes when we have our programs, during the program, cities might take action, but what about once you move away? So we wanted to make sure that the cities were embedding their vision in policies, plans, as well as institutional restructuring. So that was the foundational pillar where there were certain actions that the cities needed to take. And the third was communication. The cities had to communicate with their citizens, bring them on board, build momentum for these projects, because any of the success of these projects would only be successful if citizens really sort of take ownership of these projects that the cities were planning as well. Here again, coming to the first challenge that I was speaking about, that sometimes the cities want to take action, but there's no urgency. So projects get delayed 2-3 years, sometimes 5, sometimes even a decade to see a project implemented. So in order to make sure that these cities do take action, we also had very small incentives. Cities have budgets of thousands of crores. Even small cities might have budgets of hundreds of crores. But we realized that even a 1 crore award money was really something that encouraged cities to take action. So we had divided the program into multiple stages. And in the first stage, it was simple action, implement your pilot, develop a proposal for scale up. There was a jury that was brought on board to sort of look at how these cities were working. There was definitely a competitive spirit that was at play. Every commissioner wanted to see, okay, what is it that, okay, if Jhansi is doing that, Rourkela can do it, what can I do? And then taking it up to the scale, to the stage 2. In both of these places, the winning 11 cities got 1 crore, which is not a lot of money, but still it was an incentive. Now, just coming into the kind of impacts we saw. Yes, we were working with over 100 cities, but we did notice that we witnessed that about 35 plus cities were testing these quick and low-cost interventions. This picture that you see is a city of Kohima. It was a city with a lot of parked vehicles, which they removed and then converted into a public space. Now, in the next stage, the cities also converted those tested pilots into permanent intervention as well. This is Pune, and then this is Newtown, Kolkata, where the streets were transformed. As you can see, once the street was transformed, there was a huge level of ownership from public. There were lots of people who were actually using these streets as well. And these were then embedded for long-term vision and success in their policy. So more than 24 cities adopted the Healthy Streets policy. And because campaigns and communication with the stakeholders was also something that we really nudged the cities to engage in, they also took up various initiatives like helping women learn to cycle, or even cycle repair clinics, because we realized that many people own cycles but hadn't repaired it for ages. And these were more smaller initiatives that did not require crores of budget as well. So these kind of initiatives were also things that were engaged, that the cities engaged in. I did not go into all the impacts. I just sort of highlighted some of the important ones. So how did the program actually support the city was that we had very continuous online webinars with the city and their city teams. At every webinar, we introduced the next action that the city was supposed to take. So we did not bombard them with numerous actions and frighten them, but we gave them bite-sized actions that we felt that the city would be comfortable to take action. And for each of that action that was requested, we gave them a toolkit, which was very simple, which clearly said, these are the 5 steps that you should do, these are the different stakeholders you should engage, and this is your timeline. We had various workshops, and at every point where we felt that the cities were struggling, we also had deeper clinics for the city officials to engage with the program team as well. And as COVID eased and when we could have offline sessions like these, we also had offline workshops where we brought this community from across the country so that people could be inspired from one another, learn from one another, and also see some of these pioneering cities, what is it that they've done and how does that space feel, how are their citizens embracing those spaces as well. So the last few slides, just as a reflection from our end, as the team that was working on the project, we also sort of, stepped back to see what are some of those levers that helped this program reach where it did. So we were looking at the 6 principles in persuasion, and then we felt that it seemed like the program really ticked all of these different principles of persuasion. So one was on authority. Now, all of the cities, especially the smart cities, were reporting to the national government. And hence, there was that authority that the national government was coming in when they were actively engaging with the cities. 2 very important pieces is budget. That's where cities really struggle. Because the National Smart Cities Mission gave the cities the opportunity to use those budget, that particular challenge was removed from their end. Often there are engineering team members who are convinced that the city needs safer footpaths, the city needs better buses, but sometimes decision makers or political leaders might not be fully convinced. Because it was a part of the national government and multiple other cities were engaged in it, that advocacy that was required there was much lesser. 2 was reciprocity. Every time the cities were asked to take the action, the program also gave them the support, told them how exactly it could be done. So it was not some sort of a demand, but it was sort of a dialogue that was happening between the program team or the national program and the cities that we wanted them to take action. 3 was consistency. Each of the challenge was very clear about what is it that was expected from the cities. There was no change in goalposts. Every webinar that was held once in 45 days brought the city teams together as well. And there was a demand for a simple action that built towards the larger goal that was expected from the cities. 4th was about consensus. So these cities, so if a Rourkela was coming or if there was Srinagar that was coming, it really inspired these city leaders to see what Belgavi was doing or what Vijayawada was doing. So each of the cities brought in a lot of inspiration from one another, and that really fueled action as well. Next was scarcity. So now there was a deadline. Everybody knew that there would be a jury. The ones who took action would only move into the next step. So that also created a sort of an urgency for the cities to take action. And last but not the least, liking. We all like it when we've taken some action and then we are credited or appreciated for that action. So at every webinar, however small the action, we always made sure that those cities who took action are spotlighted and they share their journey, they share their challenges, and they inspire. So that was also something that we think worked in favor of this. So this is what we've done so far, and it's been a great learning curve for us as well. Some things that we are sort of thinking right now is that in the absence of the budget from the Smart Cities Mission, how many of these cities will really take up this work going ahead as well? Secondly, something that we cannot change in the system is that officials get transferred. they continuously get transferred. So so let's say the 3 years that we've been a part of this national program, these commissioners, these deputy commissioners are going to go to other places. So how is it that they will take this learning and continue to keep this work going ahead? Are all some of the questions that are looming above our heads. Again, I'd like to thank the team of the national government that gave us the opportunity to work on this. There were multiple cities that worked on this program with their own partners at the local level, as well as the team at ITDP that sort of thought through this, and numerous experts who guided us at every point. So once again, thanks, Aishwarya, for this opportunity.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Ashwati. Yeah, I think we moved on from a case which was based out of urgency in situation to something that didn't have a perceived sense of urgency, but there was. And you had to create a sense of urgency with deadlines and say, by this time, you'll have to do this. So that's, I think, very smart thing to do, and then create some kind of competition between cities, and they're not really looking at long term, but they're working towards something that will benefit them in the long term. That's a great initiative that way. Talking about urgency, there's another topic where there is an imminent urgency that would come up, which is essentially around disaster risk and resilience. So I would like Mr. Bhupendra Mishra, who is the founder of Resilient Foundation and is also the program manager at Aga Khan Agency for Habitat India, to do his presentation, present his case. You can be there.
Hello all. Thanks for having me here. My name is Bhupendra, and like she said, I'm running an organization called the Resilient Foundation, and I'm currently working in Aga Khan Agency for Habitat. And I was also part of Disaster Resilience Fellowship by IHS. That was George Washington University program. And earlier I was working in Ministry of Drinking Water Sanitation as a consultant, and previous to that I was a Gandhi Fellow. So this is my brief background. I'll talk about the disaster resilience capacity building at grassroots. We do lots of work at grassroots community level. So I'll talk about that in a today program. So our core of the entire project is on these two topics. One is establishing the fact that disasters are not natural. So, once our community members or our beneficiary understood the term that disasters are not natural, we then build a capacity or understanding what is the risk and how reducing the risk, how you can reduce the risk, can reduce the impact of disaster beforehand. So this is our two topics which we have in a core of the project. We are working with many institutions like education institutes, schools, colleges, corporates, defense. We have trained highway traffic police across Maharashtra on basic life support. We also train army people. We have trained securities of SEBI, Security Exchange of India, and then we also work with Panchayati Raj institutions. Transgender community, we were the first in India to train transgender community in the Palghar. And we work lots with youth groups and then NGOs and social ventures. We have built the capacities. While working, there are many challenges. Some of them are like I said, everyone consider that disasters are act of God. So making them understand that these are not act of God. This is like there are different terms like disaster not natural. There are natural hazards. Convincing them or making them understand this topic is a real challenge when we work with diverse kind of audience. And there are limited trainings only on the ground level, and there were examples when many projects were started to build capacity. Like if I take example, I'll not name the organization. One project was launched for entire Maharashtra. There were all the schools were supposed to be trained in school safety, but that particular project was limited to one school per district, and then that training was limited to mock drill. So it was just a 3 to 4 day program, and earlier it was like a 34 districts program. So the work in the disaster management is mostly limited to training part only. Then whenever we go to that community to work with community people, they are attracted to various schemes. If we tell them that you will get the ration, you will get the scheme, then only they'll participate. So this is like we have made a strict guideline that will not give incentives kind of things to attract people for our program. So this is kind of another challenge for us. Then there is a mindset issue. Like we generally work with school and teachers and other community member. People used to think that they know everything. So when we talk about disasters and then they say we know how to deal with the situation, we have dealt with this, we have dealt with that kind of flood and all. So this is kind of another challenge we are facing current, like we faced in our groundwork. Then there is a policy issues, like in school syllabus. Still, I'll talk about Maharashtra since I work in Maharashtra. There is a topic, there is a chapter dedicated in every standard for the disaster management, but these topics are like a old book things. They are not still updated. While our international communities, international organization adapted to a natural hazard from natural disasters, but still in the textbook you will see natural disaster thing. There are two types of disaster, natural and man-made things. So these are kind of policy issues we are seeing on the ground. And there is a issue at the fund, like in 15 Finance Commission, government has launched a very big fund in disaster for a disaster management. Around 1 lakh crore, more than 1 lakh crore was launched. But there is no concrete policy or concrete things are there to utilize those funds on a bottom level. So that's why the funds are not yet utilized from a center and as well as state. Then there is a lack of convergence issue. When we also work with panchayat government bodies, and we ask them to utilize their other funds, like there is a fund from Planning Commission. So there is a rule that we can utilize that 3% of that fund into any innovative program. But in the government or any other any other NGOs, there is a lack of this converging from using the funds from other bucket for any kind of innovative program. Then we also, like I said, we also work with transgenders. So we realize that disaster is very, very tiny, very small issues for them. Their issues are very far bigger from the disasters. So that is the one issue we like understood. And there is a lack of fixed standards in India. Like there are lots of capacity building happening across the country. But whenever I attend disaster management or a first aid programs, the definition changed from trainers to trainers. Like some of the teaching, like I said, disaster are not ritual. If I talk about the first aid, CPR have so many standard, like so many definitions in India. So there has to be some fixed standard, fixed definition, fixed things to so that everyone are getting the same understanding on every level of community, from community to state to national. Then also while conducting training, building capacities of youth, we also realize that there is an incident when whenever we work in a Palghar with tribal community, and this is my personal observation that whenever I handed the rope to the youth, adolescent from 9 to 10 children, and I asked them to quickly make any knot, and always I see that they make some knot and they call it a fasiki ghat, means a suicidal knot. And on other hand, this ITDP, again integrated tribal projects, are coming to us and they're saying the rate of suicide are increasing in the tribal community. So I see there is a link. The suicide is already there in mind. And we have not yet come up to any research kind of program. We wanted to work on this, but this is an observation we have like realized from our program. And then diversity in culture, geography, etc. So when we talk about India, India is vulnerable to various kind of disasters. If I talk about only Palghar districts in Maharashtra, in Palghar district you will see flood and drought on a simultaneously, because we have coastal part as well and hilly area as well. So many other kind of issues are there at a same time. So building a capacity of local organization for all kind of thing, multi-hazard, is a kind of challenge for us. So we are working in this domain. I personally working in this domain from 2009 and started our organization in 2018. We initially started with the training program, and then we realized training program is not just effective. We need to switch to entire capacity building thing. Then we launch a school safety program where we have hired local people and then send them to a school on a daily basis to work on disaster kind of issues in the school. Make them realize that there are existing risks, and if you can manage that risk, the disaster impact can be reduced at a school level, at a community level. Then rather than fixing things, like we do not engage much, like we'll give you toilet, we will construct a toilet for you, we will construct a roof for you. We do not engage in such kind of work. We make them realize that these are the risks, because we believe that we have to exit from any, like wherever we are working, we have to exit someday. So they have the capacity, they have the understanding of risk, how to identify risk and how to reduce beforehand disasters. And then in our intervention, we specifically focusing building capacities of local people. Like I said, we work in a rural setup and with a tribal group. So the project, which is very impactful in a Pune city, is not impactful in a Palghar, because our beneficiaries are different. There are tribal people. So we focused on building capacities of youth from a same reason, so that they can take a lead and run the project. Impact is very big word. We are not yet there, but I'll just highlight some of this. We have been able to shift their mindset from asking from various kind of things for the school or a community, from identifying there is a hazard and reducing that. To quote example, last year we trained Panchayati Raj institution people in a 30 gram panchayat in a Maharashtra, and in that training I make them realize that you have lost lot of mangrove in your area, and this year they are focusing, they're asking us to provide that or arrange, help them to get the plantation done at their community or village level. Then communities are getting prepared for the worst events. Earlier, when I visited one of the Gram Panchayat and I asked what kind of disasters you are facing, and she replied that recently they faced cyclone events. And I asked what we can done beforehand to reduce the impact of this cyclone. And she simply said, what we can do, it's an act of God. So now we are able to shift their mindset from this like act of God things to reducing hazard. I'm repeating this term because the entire work is this is a core of our project. And this youth are getting focused on career aspect. This is something different we have observed, that we work with youths mostly, we build a capacity. And other than disaster management program, we observe that when we work, when we build a capacity, they also focused towards their career aspirations, and then they got various other kind of jobs. Some like started their own interventions, some got the good job in the community, because like we work in tribal community, and for them, for the tribal people, coming out from their community is very difficult. So this is kind of impact we are seeing currently in our project. Communities are getting independent. Like I said, Palghar is known for a malnourishment, malnutrition thing. And one of the research has found out that people has kept their child malnourished because they're getting food and things from various institutions. So this is one of the shocking fact we realized. That's why we strictly made the policy that in the organization will not provide any material or any things from outside unless there is a huge requirement or there is a crunch in the organization at a community level. I'll use, so like I said, we were used to do lots of training program. I'll use two anecdotes from our training program. We were building capacity, we were training people in Uttarakhand, Haridwar. And this is an incident in COVID, where in between the first and second COVID. And when we arrive at a community level further to build capacities of people, I saw that there are around 60 to 70 community people has gathered there with their children, and elderly people also was there, and they were informed that you will get a ration. They were not informed that there is a training program on disaster management. And when I orient them, this is not kind of ration distribution program, this is a disaster management program, people get aggressive. And then we thought that we will get lynched now, and we should move from here. But then we stood there, and then I asked people, the family can left who have not lost anyone in any kind of accident, they can leave the program. Or if you have lost anyone, we can help you to understand how you can save them in future. And surprisingly, everyone stay there. And when we conducted training for 3 hours in Uttarakhand, Haridwar. And another incident is from like we were conducting training for teachers. So earlier they were like very refusing that key. In our textbook from the many years we are teaching people, we are teaching children that natural disaster, man-made disaster and things like that. And now suddenly you are coming here and telling that key, this is all fake, and this we have to change our definition and all. So why government is like telling us a lie and things of that like that. And then we made them realize that key, this focus from disaster management to disaster risk management this is very recent intervention from international level. Many institutions has research on that, and they came with the fact that disasters are not natural. And I gave a lot of example, like one of the example is key, like making them understand of definition of disaster, which is like any incident on a scale level is only a disaster if there is a loss. And I again ask if there is there is a desert area, no one living there, there is no tree, and earthquake happened to that area. Will you call it a disaster? Then they realize a disaster and this earthquake, tsunami and all, these are two different kind of things. So these kind of examples, this kind of definition we have utilized in our program, and then we are able to make a small shift in the mindset of the people. So I just have these things in my PPT to share. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Upendra. I think two big takeaways here is one, there is a lot of emphasis on knowledge that is just known. So there is known knowledge, and when you have to oppose it or challenge it, it becomes some kind of a mindset oriented barrier that you have to somehow cross. And when the sector itself shifts to a different narrative, all this while you were focusing on something and now we are saying something else. Earlier it was like you mentioned, training essentially in disaster risk means mock drills. And then you are shifting the narrative and saying, oh, there is a risk and we need to adapt and be ready for it and all of that. When the sector shifts, this whole idea of known knowledge and the barriers that are created by it become just one part of the problem, and you have bigger issues to solve as well. And the other simpler thing was that motivation to learn in a classroom maybe is to make it more personal to them, if it already is not. All right, thanks for that. And can I move to Ms. Rohini Pradeep, who works on something that is household level and community level and has to make that constant bridge between local governments and local communities on something that's happening on an everyday basis at home. So over to Rohini Pradeep, Senior Program Manager, CDD India.
Hi everyone, I'm Rohini. I'm from an organization called CDD Society, an NGO based in Bangalore. We are mainly developing a lot of nature-based sanitation solution systems for water and wastewater management. So just to start with, like we have been working with many stakeholders in terms of, as Aishwarya said, starting with an household wastewater treatment system to city level to, let's say, cluster level. We've been working with many stakeholders. So today I'll be mainly talking about one of our journey with Karnataka State Rural Development Department, especially Rural Drinking Water and Sanitation Department, on how they go ahead with, or how did they implemented the liquid waste management. We were completely part of this whole initiative. So I just wanted to take that as an example to say how just by bringing a policy will not have much impact. So you need that complete enabling system to support for this implementation. So I'll be talking about that. So these are some of the activity. I'll just skip these things. So when we talk about liquid waste management, when we talk about water and sanitation, so there are many stakeholders that we have been interacting with, starting with urban local bodies or a Gram Panchayat officials to sector people to sanitation workers, because they are the front ender for anything that we are doing it. And self-help group, so who will be finally, today I think in Karnataka, that's another thing that we should say is that after the implementation, lot of operation is being taken care by the SHG groups or a CBO group. So this is where we had very much examples that which I can quote here. So let's look at how Karnataka, when we talked about liquid waste management, especially I'm talking about Karnataka rurals. So what they started in 2018 before COVID. So first, when they got a funding from Swachh Bharat Mission. So you all know Swachh Bharat Mission, the first part was mostly on toilet building. So they anyways allotted the money, you know the process, everybody got, I will not say everybody, let's say majority have got a lot of toilet implemented. But one of the official who was let's say an IAS officer who thought that, okay, just toilet is not sufficient, I need after toilet, right? So we are building toilet, maybe after some years this requires an operation maintenance. In 2018, he decided that let's start with a policy. Let me come up with a SOP. When I say policy, it was just not just a what you call, just a guidelines. It went into more or as a work instruction level, where who will do what work, what kind of interventions to be taken, and what level. Because we are talking about rural. Rural doesn't, you all know, you will not have a lot of people to operate it and maintain it, any infrastructure that you are developing. So he got into that level and then looked at, okay, what solutions to be done, who will do it, and who will take care of it. So that whole policy and the work instruction was developed in 2018. Then once the policy is developed, then what he did was, okay, let me not go directly and start doing the implementation or just start doing the capacity building. So what he did was, the whole Karnataka was divided into 4 divisions: Mysore, Bangalore, Gulbarga, and Belgaum. So the 4 division has been done. Each of these divisions, the 4 or 5 pilot sites have been selected. When I say pilot, it is a small gram panchayat with let's say 5 to 6 villages in that gram panchayat. That has been selected as a pilot, and there the detailed study of the water and sanitation was done. Once the study was done, the interventions were designed to that pilot and started implementing it. So the pilot interventions are done, like let's say 2019 to 2020. This was mostly the pilot interventions were done. Once the pilot interventions were there on the ground, so then he started implementing the capacity building programs, where the whole stakeholders are divided into 3 levels, which I'll explain it later, what are the levels that they did. Then the programs has been given across Karnataka, like every taluka level, like a cluster level, and a district level, different set of programs has been organized to provide the trainings, or I would say the knowledge for a people or a stakeholders to implement liquid waste management. Then along with that, it didn't stop there. So what it did, it developed some of the protocols which can help for a rural development department to institutionalize the activities that is being planned. So when I talk about capacity building, I was saying that, so it was done in a taluka level, means in a cluster level. First, we started with an orientation program. So where we took up some of the Grama Panchayat presidents, Grama PDOs, Panchayat development officers, secretaries, and also some of the elected bodies to train them on, or let's say not, I'll not say train, we oriented them about what is liquid waste management, what is the importance of the liquid waste management. So we didn't talk about anything on the technology there. We mainly oriented them about why it is required and what is that you will get after this program being implemented. So that was the orientation program that we conducted. That was at a Gram Panchayat level. Then we did same orientation at the district level, where we got all the CEOs of the Zedla Panchayat office, DSs, deputy secretaries, all elected, some of the elected bodies, I will not say all, some of the elected bodies, again oriented on the same concept. So that's a 2 level we did on orientation. After once that orientation is being done, where people who are the decision makers have been told that, okay, what is this program about? Then we took some of the technical people who works under each of these officials. Like example, we took engineers from RDWS department, Panchayat Raj division, even Narega. So we took each division's ka engineers. They have been trained on how to design this liquid waste management programs, what interventions to be designed. there were continuous like 4 or 5 days program where they have been given an actual case. They will be taken into a village which we call as a pilot village. They has to design a liquid management solution intervention, which included lot of calculation, lot of Excel sheets. He made them to sit and then design that. So towards end of this program, the each village will have at least 4 or 5 solutions that are ready to implement it. So that was what we call it as an advanced level training program for intervention designs, for a very technical designs. From that, then we went into operational training, which is something currently ongoing because the interventions are under implementation now. Wherever the already implementation is being done, there are selected SHGs, women self-help group, and even panchayat officers have been selected to train on how to maintain these systems. Because it's not just implementation, it's about operations, right? So it was done in a 2 stages. Once the intervention has been selected, that level the program was done to introduce them the system. Then after the implementation at the site, the program has been given. So this was done every district level, every gram panchayat level. When I say gram panchayat, it's a cluster of again 7 to 8 gram panchayat that will have. So altogether, that was in that 3-level program, which is again ongoing. We have almost had around 3,200 officials of different background has been trained on liquid waste management. And it was mostly from the NREGA, RDWS and PRD department. Once that is being done, so once the training is being done, once implementation is happening, right? So we were there for a 4-5 years. So what will happen later? Because we have 3,000 plus villages. What do we do with that? So the idea was to have a technical supporting unit at the central office. Like in Bangalore, a technical supporting unit was being developed, who will be again engineers or let's say an MSW graduate, who can help all the Gram Panchayat officials on how to select the technology, what need to be done, whether it is working or not working, is this design done well. So there was a technical holding, supporting unit has been developed within the office who were supporting. Like it was more like helpline. So whenever somebody wants they're stuck in some design, they can easily call those engineers or the consultant who are sitting in the office who can guide them. Once that is done, so we were having technical support, we were having a field support. What it also they did was to have something called a state level technical committee. So this is again an higher hand technical resources who reviews every DPR that is coming in. Every month, even today, they actually come together, review the DPRs that is coming for implementation. It will not take much time because now most of it has been standardized, lot of template have been developed. However, every DPR they review it, whether it is as per our design, is it the costing components are fine, is this design is done correctly. The engineer from each gram panchayat or let's say a PRD or a technical assistant going to present the concept. So that's how they own it also. That's how the SLTC, the technical committee, who are again a lot of experts who are sitting in the water and sanitation, let's say a sector who is from Water Board of Karnataka. Then there was a person from PWD. There was an expert from outside who is again a German. So all are sit together and then reviewing the each concept, which also helps because the money that is coming today is also from the central government and the state government. The big concepts of like Swachh Bharat mission, as well as they went even also different convergence with the different. So every money that has been spent has been accounted and reviewed in a different level. This helped actually, I would say, for a better implementation that the liquid waste interventions that have been implemented. I'm very happy to say that at least with this 2-3 years of the whole technical support that has gone today in Karnataka, from a rural per se, around 13 treatment system for fecal sludge is being operational. 300 plus are being under tender process. Every gram panchayat, at least they have one grey water management system. Whether it is a simple soak pit or a inline treatment or a dedicated treatment system, they have got something. So that's the impact of this whole program that is being implemented. For me to conclude here is that, see, I think what did help here is that that program has been tailor-made for a different stakeholders that are involved, different people, and based on their skill. Not that every program I need to give it to everybody. So it was decided that for my engineer, I'll give design. I'll go to PDO. What he needs to know is that has been developed and then done. And case study, as I said, every pilot site that we had 5 solutions. Imagine for many cases, it was so difficult to get a solution. Here, the PDO could actually select what he wanted. He had a cluster of, let's say, a menu of solutions that we can use it for implementation. The strong impact monitoring. So the engineers who have been part of this program has a every month impact program where he has to update what he did in terms of the liquid waste management. So there is an Excel sheet which has been developed for each of these engineer who has to update every month. During an SLTC meeting that happens, they review what this fellow has done. The strong, I think the monitoring program and also feedback, like there is a helpline who can actually, they can reach out to, because just giving a training, just giving a material will not serve the purpose. By giving that helpline, at least they are able to go back and ask what is that they are not sure about it, what is that they require. And the whole, this also along with that, they organize regularly some of the refresher courses who can attend online, or they come to a field who can learn. So that program is happening. With all these things, I will not, I should say that this is one of the key component is that, so many cases we say that lot of programs doesn't have a funds. The Karnataka government, I think they did a very good job in converging lot of schemes that are existing. So not only Swachh Bharat mission to, they looked at 15 grant, they looked at NREGA funds, where they can combine all together these schemes and converge it, have a good implementation. So this is something which helped for this whole program to successfully implement in Karnataka. I think these are my key points to highlight in this.
Thank you so much. I think again, this is re-emphasizing what we heard yesterday, where there was this understanding that coming up with the diagnostics of problem is probably simpler, but the governments need to be built and their capacities need to be built to be responsive to the solutions playbook that's emerging from the community. So working with that kind of a solutions playbook and going uber local and using pedagogical approaches that are extremely case based, which was again mentioned yesterday for policymakers, but here for implementers as well, to sit down with the technical stuff and say, okay, you're going to do this for this pilot village, is an interesting approach to take. All right, I think that could also be a motivation factor in some ways. All right, we'll shift gears a little bit. So a lot of what we spoke about had programs, some levels of urgency, some schemes. There was differences in the kind of funding axis that was there. But then again, when we're talking about behavior change, there's a lot of emphasis on education itself. The next couple of speakers will talk about uh, some areas of intersection with education and their sectoral domains. May I ask Sanskriti Menon to please throw some light on the work that you've been doing around road safety, mobility, environment education, and building out your educational material as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Aishwarya. And it's been so educational to listen to everybody and be here since yesterday. So I work with the Center for Environment Education. This is a national institute. It's our 40th year, so we have 40 in our logo now. And this was set up as a center of excellence under a scheme of the Ministry of Environment and Forests in 1984. And, with the mandate to enhance environmental understanding nationwide. So we work on education for sustainable development. We certainly work with the formal school education system, both at the NCRT and the state education department level, also with several thousand schools directly in teacher training, etc. As well as with, of course, the higher education segment, though not as much as in schools. But we also work directly with communities, both in rural and urban areas. In rural areas, for example, for biodiversity management, facilitating biodiversity management committees, working with farmer groups, setting up farmer producer companies, looking at landscape level change. We're working on climate change, biodiversity, environmental management. We are also working with industries, currently just now with the textile industry. And I don't know if my colleague is going to join or not, but they're working on circular economy and a lot with solid waste management and implementing solid waste management systems in many cities. I also am on the board of the Foundation for Environmental Education. This is a global organization with members in about 70 countries, and it's perhaps the largest environmental education organization in the world, with some maybe about 70, 80,000 schools. And we have sustainable tourism programs. You may have heard of Blue Flag Beaches. There are 10 in India awarded, which is looking at sustainable tourism in coastal sites, as well as Green Key, which is for the hospitality sector, and it is a certification scheme for the hospitality sector. So I think Holiday Inn is not Green Key certified, but I hope they will be. But there are some others in Bangalore that are going to be. So anyway, so we do think about environmental education in a very broad perspective, so it is certainly training, capacity building, etc. It is certainly, creating knowledge or textbook, and hopefully we can correct that disaster misconception. Though there are many other misconceptions in the textbooks, which also impinge on, what happens with urban mobility. So yeah, I am based in Pune, and looking at, I don't have a clear case, a single case, but it's like a journey over time, over the last 15 years or so, which is looking at what being involved as a civil society actor. So though we have this National Institute kind of background as well, we have offices in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Guwahati, Lucknow, and Pune. So I'm in the Pune office. We do have a function or a role as a just as an NGO in the civil society domain in Pune. Yeah, so it's from that perspective I'll speak, and because you've heard Aswati speak at the national level, and that's been a very big driver of change at the central government level, and it's like a approach which is looking at policy and those kind of actors pushing for change. And this will be like working with the PMC, the Pune Municipal Corporation, and the Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation as a civil society actor, and what that has led to. So yeah, which one is it? This one, yeah. So the first case sort of is, and I think ITDP has been very heavily involved in this as well. So, the bus rapid transit, which I think Bangalore doesn't have, but Pune was the pioneer. It was in 2003 or 4 or something that the first pilot bus lane was tried out in Pune. And following that, with the World Bank funding, etc., the Pimpri-Chinchwad and the Pune Municipal Corporation, not with World Bank funded, but with PCMC did have World Bank funding to set up under the JNNURM, I think there was a national urban transport policy and a push for creating more public transport. And the BRT was seen as a good technology to increase the comfort, convenience, efficiency of public transport. And so this sort of iconic picture by an ITTP colleague actually is from Pune. And it is the Pune Bus Rapid Transit. It doesn't look like this now because it's actually been dismantled. But the brief journey of being a promotion and outreach consultant for the Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, where we were asked to do these things, position BRTS as a high-quality transit solution, reach out to the community, show them how show new riders, potential new riders, how the system works, because the lane is in the center, how you're going to reach the bus station, etc. And work with the media and do social media, etc., just like communications and outreach consultant is expected to do. So we did do all of that, and so we had all this print material, educational material, knowledge products, social media, hoardings, etc. So a lot of information on what is the BRT, how do you use it, etc., was created. Also in video forms to actually show with animation, and these we played in cinema halls. Of course, social media, in 2012-13 was starting up. It wasn't as extensively used, and social media have come and gone in the meantime. But first, Facebook was the one that we were using. And so all of this was done. And some key things were because the media needed also to be briefed, as did policymakers. The top leadership, the IS officers, the municipal commissioners also needed to be briefed, but folks like ITTP were certainly doing that. But there were others, the media, journalists, as well as corporators. And both of these are very influential in the local, in a city. And with ITDP and other actors in Pune, these were very crucial things, to work with the media to explain what is VRT and, why you should not oppose it, but understand how it actually improves public transport. And also, like, while we have this, aspiration for cars, etc., the city needs to move to public transport. So this briefing was very important. And by then, Janmark, this is now in 2008, 9, 10. We were consultants in 2013. So by then, Janmark in Ahmedabad was up and running, and it's running well. It has been running well. I don't know the current condition though, but at that time it was. And so an exposure visit for media, for journalists as well as for corporators, was very important to show that how this actually works. So I mean, demonstration, I think yesterday was also mentioned, that if you can see something, that is quite a good thing. And certainly, the launches were launched by very senior political leaders, so that also served to give a lot of. I think the day of the launch in Pune, the Pune and the Pimpri-Chinchwad BRTS are an integral system, and we have one public transport authority, which is the Pune Mahanagar Parivahan Mahamandal Limited, PMPML, which runs the public transport and across both the cities. And so the Pune BRT and the PCMC BRTs are supposed to be an integrated system, but they are sort of not really jointed corridors, they're disjointed corridors. And anyway, but the PMPML is the authority, and we did work closely with the PMPML for that. And the PMPML, on the day of the launch of the Pune BRTS, announced like a 1 month, sorry? Be closer or fast? Okay. Sorry. On the day of the launch of Pune BRTS, the PMPML announced 1 month of free rides. So they were completely overwhelmed because a lot of people wanted to try the BRT, and I think they had perhaps one of the highest record riderships in the days following the launch. We also had a lot of school sessions, school and college sessions for, those along the corridors, because those were children who were definitely going to use the bus system. And the other buses were not going to run, they were all going to run in the corridor for the schools and the communities around the corridor. So we worked with SHGs, we did presentations to them showing the animations, because they were only seeing the empty corridor. And the bus launch, after that only they will start using it. So we did, prior to the launch, all of these. A lot of street exhibitions, this is what's going to happen, etc. Also corridor visits, how to read the map, how to understand the system, where is the terminal, what is in the bus, what is in the station. These were visits to the bus stops. And what happened was that because there were 4 authorities involved, the Pune Municipal Corporation, the Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, and the PMPML, which is a transit provider, and the police. So all of these 4 organizations are supposed to work together, while the PMC, because of its earlier experience of the pilot, which was actually working well, but for some political reasons was, shown as not working, and it was, kind of, that is somehow still the case. But at that time, everybody wanted, at least at the policy level, wanted the Rainbow BRT, as we were calling it, to work well, and there was policy support, etc. But these 4 organizations needed to work together. And while the PCMC was quite gung-ho, and they had World Bank support, etc., and they were going strong, the PMC was feeling a bit, is this going to be my political death, etc., and not so for it. And at that time, Mr. Kunal Kumar was the commissioner. He said that, okay, you are consultants for PCMC, why don't you become outreach consultants for Pune as well? And most important, apart from, talking to the public, you do not outreach, but in-reach. Get these 4 organizations to start talking to each other properly so that they can problem solve. Launches, a few months away, and we haven't really got things together. And so there were 2 things that we did. One was like a leadership meeting, so both the commissioners, the head of the PMPML and the traffic, DCP traffic, sitting together saying that let's address what your issues are. And certainly ITTP and other experts were part of it, because we are not technical guys, but to create this atmosphere and this, sort of bonding between them needed to happen. And so we went through every sort of issue. And so this learnings from the Pune pilot BRTS is a documentation of what were the difficulties that were encountered in the pilot system, which must certainly be addressed in the new system that is being launched. And so this became something which, helped to be technically on board, that we are not launching a dud system. It is something that will work, should work, and these are the characteristics which you need to put in place so that it works. So that was one thing. The other was, so this was for the leadership, for the absolute heads of the 4 organizations. The other thing was the engineers and other administrative people who are certainly very important to make the implementation happen well. And for them, we did with a HR person to create, again, like a day of working together in team building and bonding, and really envisioning what is happening with the system. How are we together going to create a system that works? So these were some really very interesting, and as an NGO, I'd never thought that we would get into this kind of a space. But with ITDP and IBI, who are the other consultants, we did manage to work this together, and it's a good experience of bringing together sort of aspiration for a great system, the softer things that we do, along with really sound technical expertise to put this in place. Unfortunately, I mean, while this still beautiful, I think it's a great system to have. In Pimpri-Chinchwad, it still works well, though there are disruptions because of other metro construction along the same corridors. The number of buses has not been forthcoming, and there's a lot of interest in capital-intensive projects, as Ashwati already explained. We don't have enough buses, way shorter than what the BMTC runs. In here, we have maybe 60 buses per lakh population. In Pune, we have much shorter, much lesser than the required 50 per lakh population. So, even like admirers of BRT feel sometimes like, when are the buses coming, and what can we do with it? And the most important thing is that these people who are outside, their voices are much louder. They are anyway, like in society, they are a higher income level, etc., more vocal than the people who travel in buses. They are more vocal. They say, our space is taken away. What's going to happen? We are so congested, caught in congestion. And this is the story even in Delhi, and the Delhi High Court at that time, when the Delhi BRT's judgment was passed, and it's a famous statement. I don't know, it's ascribed to Delhi BRT, but I think it comes from somewhere else, which is that a great city is not where the poor travel by cars, but a great city is where the rich travel by public transport. And that remains like a mantra that we must actually follow. However, this is not the case, and in Pune, the BRT has been more or less dismantled. The next one is the Pune cycle plan, which again is like a big hairy thing, and we were again in a team of 2 technically, transport planners and urban design. We were the third from a public outreach and public engagement, and even writing up the governance elements of the cycle plan. This predates the work that ITTP did with at the national scale. So this is in 2015, pre-COVID. And I think in some cases, in some senses, because Kunal Kumar was also the commissioner when this was completed. And I think maybe some of this acted as an inspiration for the bicycle challenge. Certainly I did speak in 1 or 2 of those, seminars, webinars. So here the idea was that, we as a participatory planning exercise do ward consultations, ward level consultations before the drafting of the plan. And then we created the plan along with the other technical surveys that were done, and looking at the constraints of bicycle ridership, how many people are riding, etc. We spoke to a number of special groups like schools, poor women, cyclists, of course, and residents associations to understand their concerns, and looking at then all the ward level consultations, and with these specialist consultations, the plan was drafted, and the second round of with the draft plan, presentations were done in every ward, and also again to various specialist groups to say, is this fine? Of course, we did a lot of media work, social media work again, and the plan was, finalized, and it was passed by the Pune Municipal Corporation's general body. This is in 2018. And this is what the plan has as elements, so there's an institutional element that you should have a bicycle department. So the bicycle department was created for some time. Now it is part of the road department, which has the responsibility for, but there is a NMT committee, non-motorized transport committee, which is following up with the PMC to make sure that the bicycle plan does get implemented. We are nowhere near their implementation. We don't even have 30 kilometers. This map which you see in the center is for 800 kilometers. So let's see, maybe it is, I don't know, my child is also old now, but maybe her children will be able to see if she has children. But anyway, so it's basically the institutional structure, how should the cycle track and the cycle infrastructure be created, the technical guidelines for that, and how should a area like the core city of Pune actually graduate to becoming cycle friendly. So mobility planning, what should those elements be? What should be the elements of regulation and enforcement? What's the role of the police? How should the PMC and the traffic police work together to create enforcement for cycling infrastructure? Of course, outreach and promotion, and then monitoring and evaluation. So these are the elements of the cycle plan. This is available online on the PMC website, as well as on a blog, which I'll just share with you. So this is there, and it's actually a legal plan because the general body has passed it. This was funded by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development that time. And one of the conditions is that we are funding you, provided you create the plan and integrate it into the development plan. So that is a work which is in progress because somehow the various municipal commissioners in between have not done that yet, though the State Urban Development Secretary has instructed them to do it. And I'm also part of the NMT, as are, Pranjali and Parisar is a very active, and in a sense, they're responsible. Parisar is a civil society organization in Pune, and they are focused on mobility just now, in a sense that they are the ultimate drivers of some of these works that we have been part of as well. And so that advocacy that the NMT committee works with the PMC, and we get this plan implemented through the institutional infrastructure, etc. So that's a work which is ongoing. I said that there is a promotion and outreach part in the cycle plan. So one of the provisions of the cycle plan is that the PMC will create a bicycle partnership, Pune Cycle Partnership, right? And this is supposed to be, because the PMC will create the infrastructure, but this bicycle partnership's role is really to bring back the culture of cycling. And so that's what it is. It's a civil society partnership. So the PMC has not done it, but people who, Parisar, me and others, Safe Pune Traffic Movement and others, we are creating the bicycle partnership. It's already in the plan. We say that we will give life to it. We will initiate cycle to work programs, safe routes to school. So we're doing some of this already, ward level programs, corporator programs. So this is piece by piece, school by school, workplace by workplace, we start. And school by school, we are not saying today, tomorrow you start cycling, but we are saying that how can we make safe routes to school? How should parents and the neighborhood community and the local ward office work together to make the safe school zone, real? And we had this, for example, Pune cycling culture is being revived, etc. So this is work in progress. Hopefully it happens. And the third thing is this, bringing in, because obviously safety for children becomes the biggest concern, even for adults. Nobody is going to start cycling till conditions become safer. Cyclists who are like experienced cyclists, they don't care whether it happens or not, they will cycle nevertheless, both the recreational cyclists or hardcore cyclists and livelihood cyclists, they will keep cycling. But to create a larger shift, we really need to make conditions safer, and especially for children. Otherwise, my generation would be the last generation that cycle to school. And and in any case, child road safety and for adolescents, this is really a major concern for India. It's the largest killer in non-communicable diseases for children and adolescents. And Pune and Bombay are particularly bad. Pune per lakh population is probably the worst in the country for deaths of children and young people. So, but these deaths, as you said, disasters are not God-given. These are preventable. And, if 40 children are dying every day, it's really a shame for all of us that we have, these are preventable deaths. And, so what's to be done? Basically, this is called the Safe Systems Approach, or the Hayden's Matrix. And there are things that you must do pre-crash. There are things that, conditions during crash and what you do as response. And so this is technical, you don't have to look at it too carefully, but it means that, having safer users, safer road environments, etc. And you should do all of this before, so that you prevent crashes, just like you prevent, disaster, make less risks. And these are the entities that are involved, So it is the Municipal Corporation Road Department, PWD, highways, etc., and the RTO for safe vehicles, etc., the traffic police, so that signals, for example, if there is a signal near a school, you don't have pedestrian signals at all, whereas, like 300 children are going to be crossing that in a space of 10, 15 minutes, and how come you didn't give at least 15 seconds for children to cross? So things like this have to be paid attention to, as well as, of course, emergency services for in case a crash happens. So all of these are institutional stakeholders, and unfortunately, because, when you say road safety for children, the response is, yeah, let's put a chapter in the textbook, yeah? And we say, no, children are not responsible for their safety. It is adults who are responsible. Putting a textbook chapter, especially at standard third level, because there's something which is called non-modifiable risk factors. We talk about behavior risk factors. So there are things that you can control for adults. They should put a helmet, they know they can do, etc. And maybe you need enforcement as the driver to make adults wear helmets. But to tell a child you cross safely, they can't, because they are interested in other things. They're curious. They will run across. They see a ball. They will see a friend. They will run across, It is the adults who have to. Otherwise, it's like telling a child, please wash your hands, but there's neither water in the school nor tap in the school, nothing, and you're just going on telling, please wash your hands. So here, again, for road safety of children, the other is the adolescent one, which I hope medical people will give advice on how to do. Young people, biologically, they are out to hunt and mate, boys especially, So they are speeding, they are going triples, they are showing off. And how do you get, this is almost a non-modifiable risk factors, because they're, their whatever hormonal stage or whatever their behavior is like that. And you will have to control, keeping in mind a non-modifiable risk factor almost, to see how you're going to make things safer. But this is what it means that, you want to get safer conditions in cities, so that we can walk, cycle, and have public transport, so that we can have lesser GHG emissions. That's what it means. And simply put, it's like this, showing that, what gains we can make, how much fatalities can be reduced by putting in the safe systems approach. And so this is the fourth thing that we are doing, again, with ITDP, certainly. What we're seeing is that, building on this desire for children's road safety, because obviously that is the most important thing, and parents will respond to it, and hopefully communities around will respond to it. So creating the safe school zone means what? You have to reduce speed. You have to make safe footpaths for children to walk, and hopefully in time actually create cycling tracks as well, so that neighborhood children can come to the school safely. And for this, what we are saying is that the voices of children, schools, parents, mothers, this needs to come out. Otherwise there are always men fighting for parking space on the footpath, like they're, I don't know what, I mean, the greatest jewels on the earth or whatever, I need my parking space. But we want to reduce that voice, increase the voice. And therefore, what we're trying to do is these public deliberations, which we will start hopefully in July. And we are selecting people by lottery to a quota. When 50 people will attend, half of these will be men, half of these will be women, across these age groups. And it's very important to get senior citizens as well, because many of them are taking their children to schools. They themselves have great needs for road safety. So yeah, so we've been doing some of that already in different contexts. Now we are bringing all of this learning in these different cases together, working with the municipality officials in Pimpri-Chinchwad. Again, there over time, they're great. They speak better than NGO people on sustainable mobility, the engineers and the leadership. The policies are all in place for NUTP, also for road safety. They are coming in place, not fully in place. And working with schools, what we're trying to do is also activate the school transport committee. We love working with schools. We see it as a great institutional structure to have with the school management committee. They have a school transport committee, which is already in Maharashtra law, and saying that the STC is now responsible for the mandate of road safety. The corporation should do road safety audits and then work with the school to make sure that arrivals and departures of children can be safer. And of course, the SMC, STC have to work with the parents in the community for that. So that's where we are at. And what we say is that, there are multiple drivers of change, which we have seen. You have good policy, legislation, you have good enforcement or monitoring and evaluation, you have great technology, Finance may work for you. The product has to be there, the BRT, the buses have to be there for it to function, no matter how much public outreach you do. And of course, you need education. And yesterday, I think somebody had said about cognitive and social, and all of those are for us part of what happens in the educational programming. And we also think that education is really the driver of drivers, which drives each of these, to have emancipatory policies, to have good enforcement or use technology well. Education in diverse forms, capacity building, exposure visits, demo, whatever it is, many approaches are there. That is what makes change happen. So yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you so much. We learned about non-modifiable risk factors and we don't know what to do about them. Hopefully we'll be able to. A lot of these experiences are hitting too close to home, so I think I won't go deeper into those right now. So I request you, Professor Krishna Raj. We had invited him because he's part of the implementation committee of the National Education Policy, the new one, which focuses on a more holistic approach, which also looks at behavior in some senses within the education system. And Sir would also like to throw some light on his domain of expertise, which is environmental economics. Professor Krishna Raj is from the Center for Economic Studies and Policy and the Institute for Social and Economic Change.
Thank you, Aishwarya, and hello, one and all. My Institute for Social and Economic Change, is a all India level social science research institute funded by both Government of India and Karnataka. Our focus or objectives of this institute is to make policies for the government and advise to the government on various policies. So in that background, we have our colleague also, Dr. Khalil is here. And in this background, I have been involved with several research projects. Recently, we conducted several projects. Among them are one is on traffic congestion in Bangalore city. And I'm also advisor to CPCB, KSPCB, and also consultant to ADB, Asian Development Bank, and lots of other works we are doing on various environmental issues. So here I'm going to talk about, I have not prepared PPT, and just I'm going to talk about the divergence between policies and also convergence and divergence of public policies in India. And several other experts have spoken already. She has spoken about convergence of some policies, the need for convergence. And Ashwati talked about equity issues and the role of education in implementing various public policies in India. Yeah. So if you look at the public policies in India, they are aimed at achieving certain goals, objectives. These including societal goals as well as developmental goals. With regard to development of societal as well as larger goals, there are lots of divergence, and that led to lots of conflicts in implementation of policies also. So therefore, I would be focusing more on institutions, public policies, and markets. So all together, they have to work in tandem. Otherwise, most of these institutions will fail, the policies will also fail, and our market will also fail to address some of the challenges the present and as well as future generation is facing. Let me explain from the context of nature of behavioral insights. If you look at where basically public policies originate, almost all the policies of the government originate under the embedment or the pillars of constitutions. So the constitution basically provides how government has to initiate policies and how to achieve them over a period of time. For example, the overarching policies of the constitution or pillars of Indian constitution is that the liberty, equity, and fraternity. So these should be embedded in all the policies of the government. So here the constitution means it's a theory. It just gives a guidelines, but it is the duty of the government to take it forward. So the democracy or government system that has to implement all these ideas and objectives of the constitution. So there lies the role of institutions in realizing societal and developmental goals. If you look at the democracy we have in India, and that democracy speaks of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we have governments. There are 4 pillars that work in the democracy. One is legislation, another one is execution, judiciary, and the media. So all these work together to effectively implement the government policies to realize developmental goals. But we need to understand the circumstances in which these policies are being formulated and implemented. So we are in the era of market. After 1991, we are in the era of market economy, liberalization, globalization, and privatization. When these policies are being prepared and implemented, so they are focusing more on larger developmental needs than the local needs. Their conflict arises. So if you look at the market works in a certain way. It works on incentive and disincentive mechanism or economic instruments that drive the market. One of the important drivers of the market is that price. The price determines the production and consumption of goods and services, or supply and demand for certain goods and services. When we make policies, developmental policies, most of the policies have favored the developmental needs rather than the other environmental and societal needs. For example, if you take the recent policies of the government of India, they want to achieve Vikasit or developmental India or developed country status by 2047, when we are going to complete 100 years of India's independence. On the other hand, the same government wishes to have a net zero emission by 2070. So if you go by these 2 policies, the developmental policy, that is Vikashit Bharat, that targets to achieve 30 or 40 trillion US dollar economy, US dollar. On the other hand, if you look at the net zero emission, that calls for a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 and even 2070. So how they can converge? These policies can converge. They create more problems, more conflicts rather than convergence. So even though we have sustainable developmental policies, but focus of the government is more on creating wealth. Okay, if you create wealth, that is good for the country, but the problem with the creating wealth under capitalistic economy is that it is creating more income and wealth inequality. Yeah, I am coming to that one. So in this regard, so there are various drivers that shape the policies of the government. So there are 4 ways the government wants to implement the policies. One is that through information, just like education, through which a government can implement effectively the policies of the government. And the second one is that the incentive-based, economic incentive-based policies. First, let me explain how the government wants to implement various agriculture, industrial, and education policies, etc. So it wants to create awareness first, so through education. So then people started realizing the importance of these policies, and then the policy will be more effective in terms of implementation. Over a period of time, given the education level of the people in India and also asymmetric information in various sectors, these policies have not been achieved, realized. If you take, when compared to other countries like UK, USA, China, and other countries, the status of development in India is still uh, not comparable to one of most of the developed countries. So if you look at the per capita income of India, still it is 2,500 dollar per capita. So this clearly shows that our developmental policies have not reached to the grassroots level or to the rural India. So this has created a deep divide between accessing various resources, not only the basic resources, most importantly, the environmental, health, education, and other energy and other resources. So their policy is failing to realize the developmental goals of India. This education, through education, implementation policies has failed. Next, incentive-based policies. If you look at the under the market mechanism, government is providing various types of market incentives and disincentives. Incentives in the sense that in order to attract foreign direct investment, we are giving land, energy, electricity, and water and everything. So therefore, they are coming here and establishing the industries. On the one hand, it helps the economy in provision of employment and other things. At the same time, it invites these industries that pollute more, that affect the local people. The another type of policy the government wants to implement is that through command and control policy. For example, there are several command and control policies like Pollution Control Board and others. They have some command and control policies through which also, for example, traffic regulation through command and control, imposing fine, restricting the vehicles, etc. So these policies of late have been understood that, realized that these policies cannot work. So the new policy which has been thought about in recent time is that behavioral changes, to bring the behavioral changes among the people. And these behavioral changes is based on the theory of nudge developed by some economists, Richard Taylor and others. So here the government does not use any of these instruments, economic instruments or other instruments, that basically they try to give some choices to the people and people can choose whatever choices they have. But these type of policies are very popular, are very successful in case of a developed country because education level is very high. They know the product attributes, characteristics and everything. But in case of India, these type of policies may not work because given the education level and the understanding about the products and choices they are available to the people. So as a result, the public acceptabilities of these type of behavioral changes policies is not well understood in the policy circle. As a result, these policies have more divergence when compared to convergence to achieve a equitable development and sustainable development, and also a development that meets both present as well as future generation needs. Let me take some examples of some policies. One minute? One example, okay. Look at just now, Madam has mentioned, see the role of public transport, especially the common people should use cycle and they go to offices and visit various other places. Most of these, for example, construction of roads, they are meant for larger developmental needs rather than meeting the local people needs. So in the context that they are basically built to accommodate more cars than the accommodating the cycle and others. So this is going to affect more people, those who don't have money to travel by the public transport, and also they can't reach. Because we have conducted a study in which we explained that on an average 4 to 5 hours has been lost in the traffic congestion, and fuel waste is also very high. And as a result, the health impacts, environmental burden of disease is also very high in Bangalore. So what is the policy one should think of to overcome these type of traffic congestion in Bangalore city, congestion and mobility issues? So government has, you know that recently they come out with the policy of brand Bangalore, where they want to construct flyovers and also the underground highways. So these construction of highways on the basis of ultra infrastructure that caters only certain section of the people, that won't help all the people who reside in the city. So if you come to education policy, this new education policy, we are reviewing it. Some of these policies, they have merits, but also there are lots of demerits, especially. So if I can mention one is that earlier we used to have 3 years degree. Now it has been extended to 3+1 or 4 years degree. So this gives a choice to the students whether you can have 3 years degree or 4 years degree. But the end result of this type of policy is that, so when they are applying for a job, it is a problematic whether they consider 3 years degree or 4 years degree, on what basis they consider. So what is the use of these type of policies? That also matters. So further, if you look at the education in India, it is more privatized now. So there are haves and have not. They may not access to the education, the quality of education, the rich or the suburban people they are getting. The rural students, even today, they are denied quality education. So this creates more problem for the India to realize sustainable development or even developed country status. So in this regard, there is an urgent need to have a pragmatic policies or integrated policies that takes care of needs of everyone, and ultimately the public policy should be more effective, more efficient, and it should aim at creating welfare for all, not for few. I stop here and I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we can keep debating about whether acceptability versus education levels is applicable across sectors, because the great work that was done by Dr. Usha and her team, and even everybody who's working with communities, even Bhupendra for that matter, working with tribal communities who don't necessarily come with your educational background, formal educational background, and using nudges, using incentives, using the design of programs themselves to bring in the kind of changes, the outcome orientation, right, has been done. So at some level, maybe it's not okay to simply say that because in India education levels are not up to what we desire, these programs may not pick up and work. So I think going back to this point of choices that you said, working on choice architecture using some of these behavioral principles may be something that we'll have to relook at. You see what kind of nudges can incentivize certain choices that are being presented to them. Incentive need not be kind or cash. It could be anything else with respect to betterment of their lives as well, maybe. Okay, that's something that's debatable, that could be taken up. But I think one key point that's been getting repeated is, what are these larger developmental needs? There's that perception of what is the larger developmental need. Is it making those tunnel roads? Is it making those flyovers? And again, going back to the word used by Sanskriti, which is aspirations. How do people know which are the right ones, right, to have in a city? Because what maybe certain stakeholders, especially the government stakeholders, those who are in power, those who are in a position to make these decisions for the entire city, um, have different notion of what an aspirational city is, what aspirational developmental direction is as well, and to challenge that and start from the basics, start challenging these conventional wisdoms. These are things that we keep discussing in the room, and it's very interesting to see across scales how it's repeating and efforts are being made. There are challenges that are coming up, like how Sanskriti mentioned again about fears of political death, and how maybe the communication is not always outward facing. Time and again, people are very comfortable saying, okay, behavior needs to change amongst communities. And when it comes to terms like attitudes, behaviors, that probably need to be changed within the system, this whole in reach problem that we need to address. People are not really comfortable about that as well. I think before we come to you, sir, I think we'll keep you to the very last to conclude everything, because yours is a completely different conversation altogether. And also before we go to Amardeep, I'm sorry, we are running late already, just about 10-15 minutes from now. We've done this one round, we've seen repeating themes. There are a few nudges, some prompts that I want to pick up with this team. It's open for anyone to answer. Um, have you found that certain stakeholder groups are more easy to work with than others? Has that been an experience? Because all of you have shared experiences where you have had multiple stakeholders.
So, I just want to jump in. We've been working with communities a lot. And what we found is a lot of the programs across, not just health, is that we do a lot of the programs with women. So we have a lot of the women empowerment, that they have to be really doing. And so when we go to the field, women are easy to work with. So men are difficult to really be, as a group of community. And of course, there are some, genuine issues. They may be working in the morning, or, the joke that we all have is, okay, they're working in the morning. So when we go for field study or surveys, we say, okay, they're working in the morning and drunk in the evening. So where do we really work with them? So, we have had challenges, and I think we have worked around it. In fact, one of the previous projects we worked with UNICEF, when we were testing lot of the IEC material for behavior change, especially for open defecation and reducing that and all. So when we were working with them, they also had the similar opinion. We also had this. So we said, let's also have specific campaigns for men. So we did try that. And I think, way long back, 2002 or something, when I was looking at BITS Pilani on women empowerment and had to present, I said, yes, we need to really get them on board. The women have changed. Men are probably slow to change. So those are some of the things that we really look at. It's not that I'm making a banned statement on that, but still we find that a little bit more difficult.
Thank you. This was going to be another question, because if you look at this, I mean, this is a random seating arrangement, but we made a point to have a 50-50 mix of, yes, gender parity. So if there is any other opposing statement or to whatever ma'am had said.
Not opposing, it's complementary, but I think, we do work a lot with schools, but not only with children, but with children in a whole institution approach. So it is working with children, but with also the adults in the school system. And the idea is that, project-based learning to explore whether it's, say, waste management or sanitation issues or road safety issues. So children are investigating, exploring, and then thinking about the issue, but also then doing with, there's an eco club or there is a committee with students and teachers and the school management, and they have to do outreach with the community. So the school as a focus can become a driver for change as an institution.
I think Dr. Magesh will focus a lot
Also
more
focus
on
on
that.
that, yes.
Yes. Okay. This is coming from a place that we are working on, and this is a problem that we are not able to find solution to. I think the other points of discussion have been addressed with respect to motivation to learn and resistance to new knowledge and all of that. But this particular one, where we say when we look at a capacity building framework as a whole, it includes knowledge, skills, and attitudes. But when we present that framework across, there is that immediate resistance saying, how can you challenge our attitudes or perceptions or behaviors? Has there been any instance in your work where you had to do anything beyond just build their knowledge and skills and hope that they will understand what's in it for them if they change their mindset? Has there been any instance?
Yeah, so that happens with most of the programs that I've been a part of. I can give you one instance that happened with especially this program. So there was a PDO, a Panchayat Development Officer, who, whatever you say, he has his own experience saying that no, it will not work, right? So for him, so it was not a just say his perception. He will make the people around him also say that no. Okay. Right, the way he brings in such a strong points for every argument that we had with him. So for him, what did we do is that, okay, sir, whatever you said is fine. Let's also look at an alternative options. So we took them to other stakeholders. Let's say we took them to a case where a Devanhalli case, where we made them to sit with some of the elected representative who actually made this change in Devanhalli, right? So we took them, they had a discussion. Then finally, at least to, I will not say immediately was not okay to do it, at least we could see some positive change in him. Okay. So this will come up with every case, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Very quickly, in all our education sector, we say that knowledge and skills, the attitude part or the soft skills are the hardest to. So that part given. Some of the experiential exercises help us to really come around that. But at the same time, as we provide and train them, and we may have moved their attitude a little bit, but if when they take action, if there is no access to the resources, if there is no experience or the enabling environment, we get worse in that. So I think as we build any system, I think, as I listen to, all good on, cycling or walking, I could share n number of experiences walking on the footpaths or no footpaths in Bangalore. So I think, then you kind of become very strong in your negative attitude. So, experience sharing, case study sometimes has helped us, and mixing groups. Okay, mixing groups helps.
Very much reflecting what you were saying. So even to your first question, sometimes when we work with, for example, the engineering team of the urban local bodies, because while there's decision makers in terms of commissioners, deputy commissioners, etc., like the plans, etc., are done hands-on by the engineering team itself. Now, they might be easier to convince through like the capacity building program, but the place where we run a barrier is if the decision makers that they're reporting to, if they are hardcore in their attitudes and beliefs, saying that, this is not going to work, then whoever you've convinced below them, even 100 of them, it's not going to work. And they come sometimes from the strong belief, or their attitude is shaped by their experiences. The IAS officers always have the car waiting for them outside their building. They always have, even they have someone who's always with them, supporting them. which is very different from the experience that the common person feels. So recently, or coming back to the experiential, experiences that we can potentially give them, often it's when we brought them on the ground and made them take that walk to the bus stop where there were no footpaths, where they had to deal with a lot of, like speeding cars that's coming onto them, where they could not even step onto the footpath because the footpath was so high. It was when they experienced life in a way that they had never experienced before because of the way they were living, that it really helped shape or change their attitudes. And then the trickle effect is it's much more quicker for us to then support them in those sort of initiatives. So I really think that experiential learning sometimes is really important.
Okay, thank you. One last thing. This came up thinking more about the model that you had used at ITDP. Shifting the focus away from outcomes at large to outputs which are time-bound, tied to incentives and such. One can say that it is very paternalistic in nature, because once you keep talking about outcomes, maybe you found that that urgency or the willingness to shift to that is not there. But how long do you think is okay to start them off with an output oriented thing? Because a lot of these schemes and programs are extremely output oriented. Yesterday we had this conversation all morning whether the indicators for measuring impact should be output oriented or outcome oriented. Is it enough to keep the outcomes to ourselves as program designers and say that we know that if you achieve these outputs, you will come to the outcomes, we'll measure them?
So yeah, it's a very good question. I think it also, comes back to ma'am's points as well. Like even if you train everybody to walk and cycle, and tomorrow you take your cycle and you are like scared, because of these speeding vehicles that come, as advocates and activists, we might end up doing it. But if there isn't a safe infrastructure, people are not going to feel safe. Even me being an advocate, when my son continuously wants to cycle to his school, my heart beats. And I cycle, my husband cycle, but I am not confident to let my son cycle, though he's passionate about it. So that's where I think it's a balance between outputs and outcomes. Because we cannot measure the outcome before the output. Also in the Indian context, especially from the mobility angle of it, if you look at, for example, a city like Chennai, while our highest mode share is on two-wheelers, the second highest mode share in terms of outcome is already on walk and on buses. So people are already, it's not a shift that you want. Those people are already walking and already using public transport, but there's very little budget investments towards that intervention, which is causing a lot of road safety issues, again, like the way Sanskriti highlighted as well. So what we've at least, and all of this is work in progress, learning in progress, where continuously, I think all of us are learning together in this journey. So what we've tried to do is make sure that we help them with the outputs, but after the outputs are done, we do have a monitoring framework or an impact assessment which looks at outcomes. Are more people walking on these streets? Are more people feeling safer? Are women and children, because sometimes you do see a lot of adult male utilizing the space, but are women and children or senior citizens finding this place more safe? So ensuring those impact assessments are definitely a part of your project, but making sure that it's not just the outcome, but also the outputs. This is also coming from the fact that, so in some of the cities, we engaged in the Cycle to Work campaign. And here it was more on the outcome. Can we make sure that there are more people who are coming on from the corporates to cycle at least one day a week, etc. But then we realized that in the absence of the enabling environment, people were not, so the effort was not producing results. But I think it's a balance, and we should know where to strike that balance as well.
Okay. Any other comments on this?
I would like to.
Yes.
So I'll merge both of second and third question and answer this. So when I was working in Swachh Bharat mission with ministry, and I was posted in Palghar, again a tribal practice. So we constructed a lot of toilets in a community, and then we were surveying the defunct toilet, ki how many toilets have become defunct, and then what are the reason of it. So we observed that there are various, like many stones were there inside the toilet, and we've also found that tribals are not using water for the cleaning purpose, they are using a stone. For them, take stone from outside to toilet is like a difficult task. Then that's why they were not using toilet and going outside and defecating in open. So we realized that, and we wanted to make them realize this is for you, and toilets are there. There are health impacts and all. But instead of focusing on this dialogue, we started campaign on health and hygiene. What are the benefits of using water? Why to use water? And then it took like around 3 to 5 years for many organizations to intervene, and there were many output-oriented programs were conducted for the community, and then we achieved that now people are using their toilets. So that's how the different toilet number were reduced, and they are like using, and behavior were changed.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Can I just quickly? Yeah, in terms of healthcare, the definition of this outcome or like indicators of quite well defined. So maybe we are able to measure. But rightly, like Ashwati said, if we are really looking at impact, so any implementation of the project is done, and then you want to do the impact and see whether it has sustained over a period of time. Only then you could do the impact analysis. So has to be a way beyond. But at the same time, when we implement maybe certain schemes or maybe projects, we are there for a very specific period, and it's very difficult because many of us who implement those don't have funds or don't have mandate to go back and really measure the impact and sustainable part. But into our projects nowadays, they are building in the aspect of sustainability or the risks that may so we are doing it, but measuring outcomes continues to be a way. But then I think having specific indicators, because there may be so many outputs, but we could look at indicators which are very, very critical. Like she said, if I'm going to make it cycling or the walking more, or more pedestrians, using, it's very difficult to count. But if I say I've reduced the, number of deaths on the road for the pedestrians, then I've made my road safe. So you could really look at how to define that.
So, Ishwar, I just wanted to say that, we're talking behavior insights and looking at nudges, etc. But from education for sustainable development framing, what educators for SD like to do is, build SD competence, that is sustainable development competence. And what we're looking for is understanding, systems thinking and critical thinking and collaboration and empathy and problem solving ability. So when we're looking at this very wicked mobility system, the progress towards sustainable mobility, maybe in an area we hope that this will happen with policymakers, implementers, the community, subsystems within the school, etc. And they will be able to see the whole system and their role in it and be able to progress. So that, whether we use nudges, you have objectives and outputs as part of the journey, but the whole system must become clearer to people as we go along.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I have two more speakers. Okay, Amarpreet, welcome to this session. Amarpreet is a social and behavior change communication professional. So her focus would be on the communication efforts per se. Amarpreet is also from the Center for Environment Education and is based out of Delhi. Amarpreet, if you could do a very brief presentation on how communication efforts are being undertaken in your sector of circular economy. Very briefly, sorry. We are eating into the lunch break as well. Sorry.
So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'll just screen share my presentation, and no worries, I will keep it very short. Ishwarya, can you disable the screen sharing option?
Enable? One second.
Yeah, enable, basically, just disable. So, or you can directly screen share it for me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. So, first of all, I actually had to introduce C, but I think Sanskriti ma'am has already done it. So I'll just skip that part. And I just want to share that I work in C Delhi office, and C is presently engaged in anchoring programs on dry and plastic waste management and sanitation. So we are implementing many CSR projects right now. And out of all those implementing projects, I will share just a brief glimpse of how we are engaging the community and how we are using communication and specifically IC to engage the community at large. So next slide, please. So when it comes to circular economy, it is an innovative approach to sustainability that focuses on designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and material in use so that we can regenerate the natural systems. So central to this concept are the 3R strategies, which we are aware about: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So by reducing the consumption and waste, reusing products and material wherever possible, and recycling resources back into the production cycle is what circular economy is all about. So this can help us minimize our environmental impact and create a more sustainable and resilient economy, we can say. So this is a small infographic that we have developed for you. So I think it is well explanatory. So with regards to waste management and circular economy, we have, next slide please. We have observed several existing behavioral norms and barriers. So few of them are listed. We have seen that lack of standardization in terms of rules and regulations is one of the major concern, because many states follow different rules. When it comes to waste management or when it comes to source segregation, people are not even aware like which category of waste should go into what color dustbin. That is because each state follows a different color code. So till date, in the SWM and PWM rules also, there are certain colors that are enlisted, but if we go to state guidelines, then they may follow different kind of rules somewhere. So these kind of lack of standardization create a certain level of unawareness among the community. We often see that people have a perceived effort that when it comes to recycling and waste reduction, then it must be very time consuming and it must be very inconvenient. So that is why there are many lower participation rates which we see in most of the community intervention. There are knowledge gaps, and people do not trust the interventions that are being implemented. They see them as development projects that are only on paper, and they will not bring about a change. So which is why people do not actively participate. We have also heard from one of the speakers that there is resistance from a few of the stakeholder groups to change their perceptions. So this is one of the major barrier that we see, that we have ourselves observed, that behavioral inertia, that people are very resistant and hard to change their old practices. So that is why it is very difficult to introduce them to the new innovative technologies that we are planning. The disposable culture, like shifting from linear economy to a circular economy, is something very inconvenient for, and people think that must be very cost effective. And infrastructure gap is another barrier that we all know is one of the most challenge that is faced by the community, because when it comes to the community, there are no dustbins in the community. Most of the states has provided them, but they are not 2-bin or 3-bin segregated. So there are only one dustbin at a place. People tend to have those habit of disposing the waste in a mixed manner. Next slide, please. So now to address these behavioral challenges, both at the individual at a community level, we will say that SEM is a framework that is used to understand the multifaceted and interactive efforts of a personal and environmental factors that determine behaviors. So whenever we are designing any intervention or a campaign, we specifically try to focus on these 5 levels of the SEM model. So from individual to interpersonal, community, organization, and policy level, I'm all sure that all development practitioners follow these kind of model, because it emphasizes on the multiple levels of influences on behavior. So at the individual level, factors can be knowledge, attitude, skills play a major role, as Ishwarya also mentioned earlier. Interpersonal relationships, including friends and families, can impact behavior at an individual level. If we see the organizational level, that impact the rules and policies with institutions like schools and workplaces, then targeting an organization to impact an individual behavior can also work. So when it comes to the broader aspect of social and physical environment, while public policy involves regulations and laws that shape social norms and practices. So by addressing these layers of influence, the SEM models provide a comprehensive approach to promoting healthy behaviors and creating a supportive environment. So to address and to cover all these 5 levels of change, the best approach is to mobilize the community through information and then aware and try to bring out an action from them through educating them on various issues. And to sustain the behavior that we are desiring, we have to continuously reinforce the communication through various kind of ICs. Next slide. So this is basically social mapping is a PRA tool which we are implementing in various of the villages. So basically, this is a tool that helps to generate trust and transparency among the community. It is a tool that is used to map out the villages' resources and depict the natural resources. So we implement and we use this approach because it helps us try to understand the waste management resources that are being located in their areas. It helps us to map where exactly the panchayats, schools, marketplaces are located, so that we can develop a chain-to-chain model for waste collection till the MRF. Next slide. So to address youth and specifically students and of schools and colleges, we try to adopt the gamification approach. So through snake and ladder game, we try to empower students with the knowledge and skills. So we try to introduce them to the concepts that are very difficult to understand through this kind of games. So it helps us to aware them and to bring out a positive and negative outcomes of their choices, making the concepts more tangible for them. Next slide. So this was an initiative that we have implemented in Kagasnagar, Telangana. So it is an approach where we introduce the nudge of environment-friendly alternative as against to reduce the demand and usage of single-use plastic bags. So when we say that people should not use SUP and they should use eco-friendly items, then the strategy should be not only to ask them to not use SUP, that wouldn't work, but the strategy should also include that we should provide them with an alternative that what against they can use for it. So the cloth vending machine have been installed in various locations in Kagasnagar at a more convenient and at places that have high footfall areas. So the community is using the machine at very large, and we have disposed 1,000 numbers of eco-friendly bags till now. Next slide, please. So this is a campaign that we have launched in 4 states of India. And this is a 4 to 5 day campaign where students use play cards, dance drama, and Nukkad Natak to engage the community and to introduce them to the concepts of effective waste management and source segregation. So this has been very effective till now, as we have got a very good response from the municipal officials as well. Next slide, please. Yes. So these are the tailoring units that we have set up to reduce the usage of single-use plastic bags. In this initiative, we empowered the SHG women. We provided them with the cloth material, and they are now stitching the cloth bags for shopkeepers, and they are also stitching clothes of their households for market people. This is a way that we are trying to motivate and encourage them to generate their own livelihood, and most of them are now self-made entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. Yes, so The initiatives which I have showcased in the previous slide are the ones that have been taken under HDFC Bank and C project, Rural and Urban Landscape Free of Dry and Plastic Waste, that is being implemented in 1 and 3 rural districts of India. So this is a glimpse of the digital and monitoring dashboard that we have developed under the project to monitor that how many activities and how many interventions are being implemented all over the India and what is the outreach of that. So we have till now directly reached to 3,10,357 people through 807 awareness campaigns, 126 trainings, 28 workshops, and 25 health camps. So this is a huge number, of course, because we are tailoring the strategies based upon the urban and rural needs of people. Next slide. So when it comes to impact and effectiveness of the interventions, we have observed that through implementing a few of these initiatives, there has been increased awareness, knowledge among all the stakeholders group now they are fostering towards the collective social responsibility. People now have developed a sense of ownership that they have to take care of the local resources, specifically when it comes to the SHG groups. So when we have engaged them and try to empower them, now they are capable enough to look after the tailoring units that they have developed. They are now able to look after the CVM machines that they are operating. So we have observed that there has been a knowledge retention, and the participants are now reflecting upon the messages that we have passed to them. Next slide, please. So how can we amplify the impacts? So I have listed certain SBCC principles that we can follow to amplify the impacts of the community-based interventions when it comes to communication and IC. So we should always follow a systematic approach. We should use research assumptions followed by that is backed up by theories and models. We have to consider the social context, like every rural and every urban district is itself unique, needs a unique strategy to reach to the community and to lay our message. So we have to focus on the audience as well. Audience analysis, stakeholder analysis is the key here. Setting out the realistic objectives involving partners and choosing strategies that are motivational and action oriented is the key. Next slide, please. So this is some of the IC that we have developed under the project. We have developed many kind of leaflets, many kind of banners, wall paintings, games, brochures, videos that we use to reach to the community, and we that has helped us to amplify the impact at a greater level. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amarpreet. I think one thing that stood out for me was showing the consequences of people's actions through the snake and ladder game. So I think that's also something that's been repeating. The negative impacts need to be highlighted and show them if you do this, these are the consequences that you'll have to face. That's very interesting. Thanks, Amarpreet. All right. Apologies to everyone. We are really running late. And I would like to introduce Dr. C.R. Magesh, who's come all the way from Delhi for us. And he is a scientist with the National Museum of Natural History. NMNH is identified as the organization, the agency that's in charge of taking mission life. Life is lifestyle for environment. Which is basically targeting the entire country, all stakeholders, pretty much everybody. Can you change your lifestyle for the betterment of environment? So at scale, NMNH is doing its efforts, and there won't be really any questions after that. So as a closing speech, I would like you to please take it up, sir. Also a request to keep it brief because everybody is waiting hungry. Thank you.
Vanakkam and namaskar to all of you. Ma'am, first of all, I thank you for identifying me and the right man to the right program. So, distinguished speakers and my patient participants. So, I learned more than 20 minutes we cannot listen. So how patiently you are listening, either it may be an interest or it may be a behavioral change. Na? So, did you got, everybody got this pouch? Please open and please open. Please open.
It's at the registration desk for those who haven't seen.
Okay? I don't have a PPT, but I have the visuals. Visuals and the feelings. We will start from a pledge. I request all of you to get up and put your hand in your heart. Okay, you will follow me. Please keep your hand in your heart. Plant for mother. Follow me. I pledge to plant at least one tree in my mother's name under the campaign launched by Honorable Prime Minister on the occasion of World Environment Day. I also pledge that I will inspire other people to protect the environment. I also request these citizens of other countries of the world to plant at least one tree for our Mother Earth. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. This is a campaign which is launched by our Honorable Prime Minister. I have some small visuals for you. Please play.
है एक जीवन है एक मिशन आओ हम सब मिलकर करें पर्यावरण संरक्षण हरियाली की चादर फैलाएं एक पेड़ माँ के नाम लगाएं पेड़ लगाएं जीवन बचाएं धरती माँ को फिर से सजाएं प्रकृति का सम्मान करें मिशन को घर घर पहुँचाएं बंजर धरती को हरा भरा बनाएं एक पेड़ माँ के नाम लगाएं अपने आज को हम संवारें अपने कल को निखारें आओ मिलकर हाथ बटाएं एक पेड़ माँ के नाम लगाएं
You see, it is all basically mission life. So myself, Dr. C.R. Magesh, I am a son of a migrant labor. I hail from Kanyakumari district, and with a lot of difficulties, I struggled. Now I am sitting in the Delhi and sitting with the policy makers. Here, a lot of people spoke about policy mein wo hona chahiye, ye hona chahiye. Okay? So I have some points towards that. Once, if a project has to be approved, because we have lot of ideas, सबके पास idea है, सड़क में जाए वो भी बोलेगा ऐसा जाओ, ऐसा जाओ, ऐसा जाओ. But it should be politically accepted first. The MP will see, मेरा जगह, मेरा area में ये हो रहा है, मेरे लिए क्या फायदा है, मेरा जनता के लिए क्या फायदा है. Then it should be socially desirable, na? It should be desirable. Then it should be technologically feasible, then financially viable, then administratively doable, then judicially tenable, then environmentally sustainable. Otherwise, आपको कोई project approve नहीं होगा. Our building has gutted in fire in 2016 April, and we have put a proposal for 800 crores in the cabinet. In between, Ambani ji has made one naturalistic Vandara in Jamnagar. Vandara in Jamnagar, you go and browse it. So there live animals are there. So naturalistic museum was established by Indira Gandhi ji when he went to Stockholm meeting. Then he felt that we should also have a naturalistic museum so that the children can visit who are living in the city. They will go and visit the dioramas. So most of the people cannot visit the national parks and wildlife sanctuary where we see the wildlife. They can, here the children can come and touch and feel. Okay? We have a museum in Mysore We have museum in Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, and now Savai Madhepur near the Rantanpur Tiger Reserve, and one is upcoming in Sikkim. Anybody want to go, you can take my number, you can call me, I will felicitate you. Okay. So why I am here, why ma'am has identified me, when I got a call, I asked her, because I am a Government of India officer, I cannot go anywhere like that, no? So I asked her, why did you call me? Then she told, she has called some of my ministry and they have suggested me. Then I told her, you send an official mail, then the mail has been converted in the file and approval has got. So my boss also felt I'm the right person to speak. What I did, when the mission life was launched by Niti Aayog and by our Honorable Prime Minister in Kevidia, it has given to us to carry forward. So I am a man, I will be before time. आज ही सुबह भी हमको 9:15 रेडी होने के लिए बोला था, हम 8 बजे 8:55 को रेडी हो गया था, गाड़ी आने के लिए लेट हो गया, मैंने इनको फोन करके इतना दिमाग खराब कर दिया ना. You see, we are saying nudging, behavioral change कैसा आएगा? पहले डिसिप्लिनर रहो भाई, है ना, then motivation ले लो भाई, आगे चलो, है ना. You see, ये from Kanyakumari I can travel like this, and another 12 years of service is there. I will hold a post in the Constitution of India, then I will go back to Kanyakumari. है ना? So this fire in us, we require. You see, we all study, we earn money, we run for emotions and all these things. Ultimately what? We require satisfaction and happiness. पैसा नहीं देगा, post नहीं देगा, your content, state of mind dega. Okay? Then what happened? I took this mission life. I told my children to adopt something. There are 7 themes. Save energy, save water, say no to single-use plastic, adopt sustainable lifestyle, adopt healthy lifestyle, reduce water, and reduce e-waste. That ma'am, Ashwati ma'am, has done the healthy lifestyle. Na? And she also done some done works in healthy lifestyle and reduce waste and single-use plastic. So she has done a lot of work on energy saving and water. So not only Government of India, the NGOs are the pillars of Government of India. They take money, they go to the grassroots level, because in Delhi, no officer will go to the field. They will sit in the AC chamber. They will come at 9, go at 5:30, or in their own, उनका मन में आएगा, कभी भी आएगा, वो 10 बजे आएगा, 10:30 बजे आएगा, जाएगा. Okay? So मैंने क्या सोचा, when from Kanyakumari I am sitting in Delhi for this job, why I cannot do a change? So I went to the Secretary Education Delhi, and because when I asked the principal says, sir, हमको उधर से चिट्ठी नहीं आया, इधर से चिट्ठी नहीं आया, बच्चे बिजी है, वो है, ये है, वो है. During air pollution, we cannot breathe in Delhi. सबको wheezing आ जाएगा, हमको भी wheezing आ गया था first time. Wheezing आ जाएगा, all health issues will come. Then the Commission for Air Quality is there. When our minister took a meeting, the minister said, you call the director National Museum of Natural History, they will do something. So they told me, अब सब मेट्रो में नुक्कड़ नाटक करो. So कल हम नुक्कड़ नाटक देखा, बहुत अच्छा लगा. Thank you so much, ma'am. It is also one of the tool to take the message to the general masses. So मैंने क्या किया, स्कूल चिल्ड्रंस को चूज किया, 10 बच्चे को चूज किया, उनको मैं उनका स्कूल्स के बगल में 2 पब्लिक प्लेस में वो करेंगे, उनको 10,000 रुपीज देंगे, उनको सर्टिफिकेट देंगे, उनको गाड़ी देंगे, उनको सब देंगे. When the PMO is saying do something, so this is the only way to create awareness first. Next, we have stopped the construction, गाड़ी को हम जरा सड़क में हम करा है, सब किया. I will be attached to the DM of Delhi, and I put challans. So 15 days abhiyan, clean air campaign, I did that. So in this mission life, so what I did, I met the Secretary Education, and I told sir, हमको स्कूल में जाना है, आपको principal allow नहीं कर रहा है. Then what he did, he connected me with the Vidyanjali, which is a portal of education. They connected me and they sent a letter to all the principals that Dr. C.R. Mukesh will be coming, felicitate him. Okay. Then हमको चिट्ठी पूरा letter दे दिया, principal name and mobile number, and उनको भी mail कर दिया. There the school starts from 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. matlab I should go from my house at 6:30. So I drop a message to any principal that I'm coming. They will say, sir, you are welcome. 6:45 को हम गेट में खड़ा रह गया, है ना? So they become डर गया, ये तो दिल्ली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से एक साइंटिस्ट आ गए, वो हमसे जल्दी आ गया. So हमको हिंदी सीखना पड़ेगा, isn't it? So there the government schools morning shift is girls. The strength is 3,000, 4,000. When I go and speak, you see, here also some of the people are watching the mobile and all these things. No, the last wala bacche aise aise खड़ा रहेंगे. Then some children will come and ask, sir, हमको scientist बनना है, आप कैसा बना? मैंने वो tool को पकड़ा. What I did, first I will go to the stage and I will say namaskar, and I will say namaskar to the teachers and the children. Then I will say, today I am in front of you as a scientist only because of the teacher. Then teacher has got provoked. Then the children's, no. In government schools, mostly the poor children will be there. I say, I am a son of a labor. Then they become alert. And they listen to me. Then I say, if you want to become a scientist, will you save water? Will you save energy? आप schools में बाहर जाने के time बंद करके जाएंगे? Then everybody will shout, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. That give a kick to me. मैंने daily school में जाना शुरू हो गया. Daily. I will take the bag at 6:30 a.m. Go to school. 8:30 school खत्म हो गया. 8:45, 9 o'clock seat में बैठ गया. Then whoever works under me, they are in trouble. I will take all the attendance and keep now set. No. Ladies will come. Sir, बच्ची को क्रश में छोड़ा. Husband को खाना बनाया. मैं बोला, if you want employment, stick to the time. Otherwise, नहीं, उनको ऐसा, इनको ऐसा. I am like this. Under my guidance, discipline is important. Okay. Then I did, keep on doing. It has reached the minister. It has reached the secretary. They recognized me. Magesh. They never say anything. In the distance, they will say, Magesh, like this. वो भी हमको बहुत ऊर्जा, energy दे दिया. So I have one video for Mission Life also. You play the video for Mission Life. This is the campaign which I did for the Save Wetland. You see, across the country, children has pledged it.
And overuse of resources.
Put a volume increase. No, it is my time. I never leave any opportunity. Here, my audience are happy. Another 5 minutes. The knowledge. Across the country, importance of wetland. I want all the pictures so that our ministry will tweet. Today, this organization has taken this pledge and it will be retweeted by our Honorable Minister. This is my assurance to you. Okay. Mission Life में एक वीडियो है, वो चला है. Mission Life. ये नहीं है, next day प्रगति है, English. क्या कर रहे भाई? Practice, no. Next what होना है, next what होना है. Practice it.
मिशन लाइफ का मंत्र है लाइफस्टाइल फॉर एनवायरमेंट. पृथ्वी पर रहने वाले प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को व्यक्तिगत प्रयासों की कामना के साथ ही आज ये मिशन लाइफ का ये विजन दुनिया के सामने रख रहा हूं.
My dear Prakriti, remember what you have to do on earth?
Yes, Mother. I will educate people with love so that they understand mission life and maintain the environmental balance by adopting environment-friendly lifestyle.
My child, these 3 things will help you on your journey. First is the tiara of flowers. This will keep you happy and energetic. Second, this badge of life, which will remind people of lifestyle for environment. You can also give this badge to people who contribute for the betterment of our planet. And third, this bag of hope. Whenever someone harms the environment, you can take out eco-sustainable alternatives from the bag and inspire them to adopt Mission Life.
Okay, Mother. Now I will leave for my mission life.
There's one life, but there's one mission. Let's all work for environment, rejuvenation, beloved planets. protection. Adopting environment-friendly lifestyle is our ambition. Say no to single-use plastic. Let's use stairs instead of lift. Save water, segregate waste, reduce overconsumption, and reuse again. Together we can, together we will, together we will achieve this ambition. There's one life, there's one mission. Let's all work for environmental rejuvenation. Beloved planet's protection. Let's choose life for green planet vision.
Okay. I'll stop within another 5 minutes, ma'am. Aishwarya, ma'am. Okay. No. When other speaker is speaking, you never say "Kana hoga, bhook laga, pani mein pyas hoga." Ma'am, what is this, ma'am? मैम हम दिल्ली से आया मैम दिल्ली से आया मैं सफाई वाला को भी काम करके जोड़ूंगा जोड़ेगा नहीं उनको
No, you go ahead. We'll take lunch here.
Okay. you see my one humble request to all of you. You see, you all are the torch bearers and we are all living in this lap of the Mother Earth. So please adapt the eco-friendly lifestyle. And we have listened a lot of things from all the panelists and it is very encouraging and I have also learned a lot of things. And all of you should put this badge while taking lunch. I want to see, and we will take a pic also. My humble request to all of you to plant one sapling on your mother's name. Take care of them. Take a selfie. Send it to me. I will reach that to the Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Jai Hind. You see, ma'am, one thing, ma'am. This book we have launched in the Egypt in the last 2027 conference of parties in the Sharm el Sheikh. This is the paintings of the children on the mission life. It is launched there and all the children has been awarded with the cash prizes. Now we have pro-planet people. You are all pro-planet people. You should adopt environment-friendly lifestyle. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who's made it today here. Thank you.